freedom and achieve clear after this.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. Welcome to the program here. You can join us. You can bring up whatever's on your mind. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. It's Ian tonight.
Matt. Oh, sorry.
Oh, welcome back, Matt. You had to take the week off last week to go do some family stuff.
I did.
Good to have you back.
I did. Last week was a week. That was a long week in 7 days.
And we are supposed to have a third host tonight. I don't know if he's going to materialize late. I mean, he is a busy man, but we'll see if Jay Noon joins us in person tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So he's
That would be great.
Dealing with the DCYF attacking his family, and we'll hopefully get an update from him.
It's so stressful when they whenever
I can only imagine.
And I can't. That is like peak, like one step short of actual warfare in the streets level of societal stress has to be the stress that comes down when the government gets in your face in the form of your kids.
Yeah, I mean, there's no more critical thing to a person, right? Like, it's something they can threaten a lot of things in your life. They can take your house, they can take your car for various different violations, quote unquote, of their stupid codes and statutes and all that. But those are just things. Those can be replaced.
Yep.
That's, not the end of the world. You will likely have a car again and likely a roof under which to sleep at some point. But there's only one kid, right? Like, they're all original. They're all unique. And once they're in the state's clutches.
And you made them.
Well, yeah. You might get them back if you pay enough money and hire the right attorneys or whatever it takes to fight them. But they've still then been directly in the state's clutches for however many months or years that it takes to go through that process. And who knows what kind of damage is being done to them mentally.
Or physically.
Well, there's that too. Yeah, certainly there have been a lot of examples of foster parents abusing kids, and not just the foster parents, but the bureaucrats working within the DCYF system in many cases have shown to be perverts, abusers, molesters, that kind of thing. So that alone is disturbing enough. But just from the mental aspect, right? Like now, like he keeps his kids home, right? Like he's not going to send them to a government school. His goal is to keep them out of the state's hands so they don't indoctrinate them with whatever communism or statism or whatever form of ism that they're pushing these days. And as soon as they steal your kids from you, well, now they're completely within their clutches, and they can indoctrinate them however they want. So, I mean, that's one of the most horrifying ideas of this. If you don't mind, go ahead and check that door. I think we may have Jay Noon with us. We got Coconut, our little guard dog. He's alerting us to that. In other news, we've got the story about inflation, Miami coin, which is back in the news with the Bitcoin conference going on in Miami. There's an update on that situation as well. So there's as always a lot to talk about here tonight. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And you can join us, and you can bring up whatever you want. And now we do have him with us. He is Jay Noon. Hey, Jay.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks. It's been quite a few, 2 years now since you've been in as a co-host for a whole show, I think?
The last time I was on was with Luke, and I think it was...
That was kind of like a little guest spot. You were kind of in and out.
I think we shared chairs or something.
That's
but
right.
It was,
Luke Rudowski.
Right. And that was, I think, last summer. No, it might have been the summer before. So, yeah, you're probably right.
I think he's actually down at the Bitcoin conference right now, if I recall
just got
correctly.
off the phone with him. Yep, that's what he's doing. He says, I'm hanging out with Jim Babs, is what he told me.
Nice. Yeah, there are some good people down there at the Bitcoin conference, but unfortunately it is loaded up with what you would call a Bitcoin maximalist. That is the people who run the conference, and those are people who believe that Bitcoin is the one true crypto and that there shall never be any other crypto, and all other cryptos are what they describe as S-coins. Can't say the full word on broadcast radio. And so, I don't know. It'd be an interesting conference to attend just to kind of take the temperature of the room. I was reading, just to see what the people who are attending think rather than the organizers. I was reading one comment from somebody on Twitter today. They were attending a conference or one of the panel discussions about what was described as a DEX panel. DEX stands for Decentralized Exchange. And I guess during that panel, somebody who actually runs a decentralized exchange was in there watching it, and he said they were advocating people buy government money orders for some reason. And when this guy brought up Thorchain, which is the most exciting decentralized exchange on the planet right now, they basically blew him off with an arm wave and said,
that's all they have. When you get into these conversations, that's all the maximalists have is an arm wave
to turn you away.
Yeah, they don't really have any good arguments. We got into it at PorkFest last year, and with some Bitcoin maximalists who were barking across the way. They had the campsite across from us. So it was,
I saw the debate, quote unquote, video from that.
Tone Vase and and some guy that was
and
with
another
him.
guy, yeah.
And you know, and it came up. You know, the question was, have you ever had a Bitcoin transaction? Like, have you ever bought anything for Bitcoin?
Seems like such a basic question that anyone who is into cryptocurrency should be able to say yes to, and yes more than one time, but no.
Well, no, but so
you're saying that was their answer.
That was their answer. Yeah. So how can you as people who do use Bitcoin for transactions, I can tell you it's slow. It might not go through or expensive.
These days it goes through.
Yeah, whatever. If the market starts to get a little crunched again, it's going to just choke again.
That could be. For
so
sure.
You know, this is a problem that's endemic to Bitcoin as a cryptocurrency. It's a standard bearer. We all thank it for its time and putting in the effort in the early days, but it's time to retire the Model T and come out with a new model now. So you know.
Tone Vase bought a lot of pork chops off me at PorkFest with
He's
Bitcoin.
a good guy. I mean, I like Tone.
I had
do
a lot
too.
of problems with an Edge wallet 2 years ago, and I had sent a guy like $1,600.
Accidentally.
No,
on
purposely.
purpose. Okay.
And but I did like a low fee because it was
this was back when Bitcoin was getting pretty clogged up.
So it would have been 2 years ago. You know, it would have been 2 PorkFests ago. I sent it just before PorkFest to this guy, and he was a friend of ours up at PorkFest, and I think I bought some silver off him or something. I can't remember, but like the transaction just did not go through. It got sort of stuck. So and it was like 3 or 4 weeks before PorkFest I sent it, but and he's a friend of mine, so he knows I'm good for it.
Sure.
And we weren't really worried, but you know, if you sent somebody like, you know, Bitcoin and they sort of needed it, you know, they might not believe you send it, and then the transaction shows, and then you go in and it says, oh, it's like, you know,
pending.
It's like 10,000 out of 250 million in a meme pool. It's like, you know how you do that little that I don't know. That, you know, rate
mempool, yeah.
Mempool, yeah.
Meme pool's fun though. That's
well, whatever. Yeah. And so, anyways, Tone helped me out. He's like, oh, he goes, this is how we resync the wallet. So what it did is it basically stopped that transaction because it was there wasn't enough. So what I had to do, he's like, oh yeah, all you got to do is just go to custom, set it 10 bytes per Satoshi. Did I say that correctly? 10 bytes per Satoshi.
Probably bits, but I don't know.
Or bits or whatever. So that worked, but 10 bytes didn't work. Like 6 weeks later, you had to
pay more.
Up it up to like 15, and then up,
I think they measure
like 20.
Satoshis by byte. I think. Anyway, that's getting too technical. But it did finally go through after you paid enough.
Well,
fee,
right. So like, and then a couple of times I've had to like send some Bitcoin, and one transaction was like maybe $1,000, but it was like to like really make it happen. It basically was like a $31 transaction fee, which was annoying.
Yeah, that's insane.
That's nuts.
That's not the way Bitcoin was designed, and unfortunately, the programmers behind it these days have seemingly purposefully hobbled the thing, crippled it. And they could fix it. They could make it so that it runs as smoothly as Bitcoin Cash, for instance.
But that's why I use Bitcoin Cash for small transactions and Bitcoin for large transactions. If you have to use Bitcoin. as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, you could use Bitcoin Cash for a large transaction, too, if you want to. The number is 603-283-6160, or, of course, Dash or Monero, which I know, Matt, you're a huge fan of. There's actually a Monero conference going on right now in Miami. Like, all of the crypto people are in Miami. Whether they're at the same conference is another question, because there's 3 of them going on. There's the Bitcoin conference, the S-Coin conference, and the Monero conference.
So you're saying there are no feds left in Washington, D.C. right now? They're all down there?
Well, one of them's listening to the show right now. You can guarantee that. There's more coming up. It's Free Talk Live. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover brings her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Are you tired of governments around the world killing innocent people? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin is money that cannot be inflated or controlled by any state. By continuing to use their money, you're perpetuating the killing. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available to you now. Learn it, use it, spread it.
Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. It's Bitcoin.com.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 27th through July 3rd for the 6th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which sold out for the first time in 2021. Fork Fest takes place the week after Pork Fest, but Fork Fest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 27th through July 3rd. There's no better place to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire. You can find out more at the unofficial website, forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the Forkfest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the Forkfest Forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there. Forkfest.party. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. You can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, you've got Ian,
Jay,
and Matt.
Phones are open. You can bring up whatever's on your mind. By the way, Free Talk Live brought to you by Bitcoin.com. If you would like to learn about cryptocurrency like Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, you can get over to Bitcoin.com and click Get Started there at the top of the page. You'll find some introductory videos. You'll get some of the basic concepts down, which are important to understand before you decide to maybe make a purchase. And there are so many options from which you can choose. Of course, a lot of people would say that Bitcoin is the safest bet in the cryptocurrency world, but for how long will that be the case? We don't know. I mean, the price could go down in the next 5 minutes. It could go down in the next 5 days, or it could go up forever. But that seems pretty unlikely because it tends to go all over the place like a roller coaster. So you should learn a little bit about the world of crypto first before you get into it. Go and click Get Started at the top of the page over at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com. And then that's true of all the cryptos. In fact, Miami Coin is something that came out not quite a year ago. I think it was late last summer in 2021 when Miami Coin was released. And now it has, generated revenue for the city of Miami to the tune of over $5 million.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, that sucks because that's money going to an evil government. But it was done voluntarily, which is unusual. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that here. And by the way, tonight you do have Ian,
Jay,
and Matt.
Here's a story from the Wall Street Journal. Miami is the first U.S. city to earn revenue from a city-branded cryptocurrency project, getting about $5.25 million worth out of the launch of Miami Coin. Buyers of the digital token have had a rockier experience. Miami Coin's value has fallen by half since it's made its debut last summer. The mining of municipal-linked coins is an early experiment blending the chronically cash-strapped bureaucracy of local governments with the cash-flush world of crypto. Proponents, such as the Miami mayor, Francis Suarez, who's sort of trying to portray himself as this crypto-friendly mayor. He's spoken at the Bitcoin conference in Miami. He's sort of trying to dub Miami as this crypto city, basically. They just revealed a new bull. I don't know if you heard about this. We talked about it last night on the show. Like, you know how they have the bull in Wall Street? The bull sculpture? Now they have a bull sculpture that's much more kind of neo, if you will, like very kind of modern, robotic looking.
I wonder what
scary.
that could cost to taxpayers of Miami.
Well, that's a good question.
Is it bronze?
I suspect it was sponsored. Based on the photos I've seen, I think there was some sort of a sponsorship indicated there, but it is. I don't know what it's made out of.
That's really swinging for the fences as far as marketing goes.
Yeah, and we did cover last night that Miami doesn't seem to have jack diddly as far as businesses, at least restaurants, where you can spend cryptocurrency. So it's certainly not like Keene or Portsmouth, New Hampshire, where you can actually use crypto. But nonetheless, they did embrace this city coin concept, and Francis Suarez, the mayor there, imagines a future in which municipal coins become nearly ubiquitous. For cities, tapping the crypto market can mean a fresh source of cash, and Miami said that it used the revenue from Miami Coin to help fund rent subsidies for low-income residents. The city's operating budget is $1.37 billion. So certainly $5.25 million, for a small town would be a lot of money, but for Miami, it's just a drop in the bucket. But for investors and proponents, such digital coins hold the appeal of helping support a city while riding the seemingly endless waves of crypto enthusiasm to significant potential gains. So the idea is, as we've promoted before with this Miami Coin thing, is if you like the city of Miami and you really like the government of Miami, you can buy this Miami Coin.
That's not how people are going to look at it. People are going to look at it like, I like Miami. I live here, so Miami.
Yeah, I don't know what percentage of people who are buying Miami Coin actually live in Miami. That's an interesting question, because that's the thing is you can actually get revenue from people outside of the city in theory by offering this city coin. Just maybe people who visited Miami or who have family in Miami or whatever, they used to live there. And they've got some sort of place in their heart for the city. This is one of those things where it confuses people, right?
Yes.
Like there's a difference between the plot of land known as Miami and the organization of criminals known as the City of Miami. So let's be clear, this money goes to the City of Miami. It goes to the criminal organization of people that threaten other people over their properties, put peaceful people behind bars for smoking pot or whatever. That's who gets the benefits.
Curfews. They have curfews in Miami past couple of years. I
the
heard
COVID
curfews? And then they had some. Luke was reporting about curfews, because of spring break when he was down there on his show. Luke from wearechange.org, and so they got enforce curfews, which is essentially violence against people.
Right, and it just really shows how far the cryptocurrency industry has come. It used to be a very libertarian group of people. The conference for crypto early on was the Porcupine Freedom Festival.
Yes.
Where a lot of us are going to be going hopefully this June, although I've heard it's pretty much sold out at this point, so if you haven't gotten your ticket yet,
might be out of luck.
Good luck. Check porcfest.com, porcfest.com for more information about that. I've heard they've actually sold over the amount of tickets, so they're like sort of selling over the amount that so they could cut this thing off at any time. But there were a lot of early adopters of Bitcoin that went to the Porcupine Freedom Festival because it was a very libertarian concept in the early days. Arguably, Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of Bitcoin, whoever he or she or they happens to be, that person seems pretty libertarian
completely
in their writings.
They founded Bitcoin for all the right reasons.
But now the money people are getting in. And the money people don't care about liberty, a lot of them. They just want to make money.
And generally, in my opinion, they don't have to. They don't really...
You mean they already have money? Is that what you mean?
No, they don't have to care about liberty because I think they're exercising crypto in and of itself is going to have liberty repercussions.
Well, I see where you're coming from there, but this gives an example of what has happened. It has sort of, and I'm not saying this is bad per se, it's sort of inevitable, right? Libertarians aren't enough to carry a huge market. We're a very small segment of society, so if we want something to succeed, it has to grow. It has to go into areas and attract people who aren't like us. But the fact that there is something called a city coin, which is designed to fund governments, just goes to show how far from the original libertarian ethos of Bitcoin that the cryptocurrency industry has fallen.
The one thing I think would be handy about like a municipal corporation essentially running on like a blockchain-based cryptocurrency, and not that they're running on it, they're using it, but is the fact that it's really hard to audit where money goes in these governments because it's very hard to get the information. They make it very difficult to access, even though everybody's like, oh, it's just a few clicks away. And so,
I've seen the tax budget or whatever for the city of Keene. It's like an encyclopedia. It's humongous.
Well, it's for example, the comprehensive annual financial report. They really CAFR1.com is a website years ago you used to go to that sort of explain that. I don't know if it's still operational, but I like the idea that any of this stuff that's going on with these governments should be on a blockchain so it can all be very transparent. So if it's moving that way, that's cool because it's a lot easier for us to see where our dollars are actually going.
Well, and if there could be a government that actually funded itself through voluntary means, then I'd be all for that. And,
sure.
And this system of city coins, in theory, could make something like that happen if there were a government that were interested in doing something like that. But of course, why would they? They're just seeing this as an extra amount of money on top of the amount of taxes that they're collecting from people. There's more coming up, and you can share your thoughts on city coins. It's Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live's video archives have been on LBRY for years. LBRY is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of it here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, LBRY launched Odysee, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it's really taking off, now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. Thankfully, Odysee started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odysee. You can watch live or anytime on our Odysee channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, download the desktop app at lbry.com, and then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed and keep it online forever. At minimum, we ask you visit video.freetalklive.com and follow us on Odysee today. video.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks.
We have significant losses of troops, and it's a huge tragedy for us.
Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov admitting for the first time that a substantial number of Russian troops have died on the Ukrainian battlefield. He spoke today exclusively to Britain's Sky News and said that Russian troops had pulled back from Kiev to give negotiations a chance to succeed. He denied that Russian troops had committed war crimes, said Moscow was a victim of fake news, and said the Kremlin sees no possibility of Vladimir Putin or members of his inner circle ending up before a war crimes tribunal. Mr. Peskov was speaking as the UN General Assembly voted to throw Russia out of the UN Human Rights Council. FSN's Sarah Walton covering that story from our bureau at UN headquarters.
In introducing the resolution to remove Russia from the Human Rights Council to the UN General Assembly, the Ukrainian ambassador Sergei Kislyak compared Russia's invasion with the Rwandan genocide of 1994, initial warnings of which were not recognised by the UN. He said the credibility of the Human Rights Council was at risk unless Russia was suspended. The Russian representative said the move was a politically motivated attempt by the West to maintain dominance in international relations, and he said the accusations of human rights violations committed by Russia were based on fake news. In the end, 93 members of the UN General Assembly voted yes to Russia's suspension, 24 voted against, including China and Iran. 58 countries abstained from the vote. Libya is the only other country to have ever been suspended from the Human Rights Council after government violence against protesters in 2011. Sarah Walton, New York.
In Russia, Nobel Peace Prize winning journalist Dmitry Muratov was attacked on a train in the southwest of the country. Red paint was thrown at him and one of his eyes was reportedly damaged. In Washington, an historic moment on Capitol Hill.
On this vote, the yeas are 53, the nays are 47, and this nomination is confirmed.
Vice President Kamala Harris announcing that Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson will become the first black woman to sit on the U.S. Supreme Court. From FSN's Washington Bureau, Nick Harper reports.
Every Democrat senator, along with 3 Republicans, approved her nomination, handing President Joe Biden a big win. When running for president, he'd pledged to nominate a black female. This confirmation is a fulfillment of that campaign promise. We're told the president and the newly minted justice watched the Senate vote at the White House. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
The Supreme Court in Pakistan has ruled that Prime Minister Imran Khan acted unconstitutionally when he dissolved Parliament earlier this week, fearing he was about to lose a no-confidence vote. The vote will now take place this weekend and could oust him from power. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live, and the phones are open if you want to join the show. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here tonight, you've got Ian,
Jay, and Matt.
You can also join us online. Just head over to freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on our social media platform at social.freetalklive.com. That is where you can contribute by talking to other Free Talk Live listeners. Basically, it's like Twitter, but without the evil mega tech corporation behind it. So head over to social.freetalklive.com. There are apps that you can download to interact with our social media server, or you can just use the website, social.freetalklive.com. We're talking about the Miami coin experiment, the very first ever, and I believe there's a New York City coin as well that has subsequently been released. I don't know if they've come out with anything else since then.
Are these based on the same code?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all, according to Wall Street Journal here, it is a project of a 10-month-old nonprofit organization called CityCoins that aims to make city-branded digital tokens a reality in any city that's interested.
Is this code Ethereum?
No.
Oh.
No, it's actually riding on the Bitcoin blockchain somehow, and I don't know, I'm not an engineer, so I don't know exactly the tech behind how that's working. The mining creation of digital coins named after Miami and New York began last year. The CityCoins website encourages visitors to vote on which city they think should come next. I know they were talking about Austin, for instance, which you'd figure that would be one of them. The cities have no role in the projects beyond agreeing to accept donations set aside during the mining process. So I do like that aspect of this, in that this isn't actually being run by the city of Miami or the city of New York. So that's good. You don't have the politicians' hands directly on the project, but obviously they're still looking to curry favor with politicians. So it's still an icky thing. Now, to Miami's credit, they did say at one point, I don't know whether they honored this promise, they made some sort of statement about that this would result in some kind of a tax credit for property owners. And I don't know if they actually followed through with that. Because if that were true, then it would be hard to oppose this, right? Like if it were true that they gave people a tax break because they got $5 million in through this CityCoins thing, and so they lowered the remainder of their taxes by $5 million, then to me that seems like a smart thing. That's like cool, right? Yep. So if this thing really did take off,
you got to be so careful when the government's involved.
Well,
though.
They are
such dirtbags. They are so bad.
They don't tell the truth.
It's like they're literally a criminal syndicate, and they're going to do criminal syndicate things. And they're going to find a way to make it dirty. Who's allowed to mine it?
Anyone?
Really?
Yeah. Again, it's not the government that's running the coin.
That's true.
Miami coin began trading at around half a cent on August 26th and was a little more than a quarter of a cent as of April 5th, so it's lost around half of its value. According to CoinMarketCap, the coin's value briefly rocketed to 5 cents twice in its first month of trading. New York City coin has also fallen from close to half a cent at the beginning of February to about a quarter of a cent, according to CoinMarketCap. Quote, if you're in it for a quick buck, you shouldn't be holding city coins, said a man who helped launch the idea. They dreamed it up in 2021. He said, there's no investment that only goes up and to the right. And that much is certainly true. The mining is done by private citizens anywhere in the world through a digital infrastructure set up by CityCoins. Miners get either Miami coin or NYC coin by turning over another type of digital asset known as STX. I believe that stands for stacks. And that is the thing that somehow is connected to the original Bitcoin blockchain. Don't ask me how. According to the explanation on the CityCoins website, the city gets 30% of the mined STX, which is set aside in a digital wallet, then converted to US dollars before being donated to the city coffers. Some municipal leaders have signaled interest. New York City Mayor Eric Adams tweeted a warm welcome to CityCoins shortly after he was elected in November. States collected more than $28 billion in fiscal 2021, according to tracked data by the Urban Institute from lotteries, casinos, and racinos. Those are casinos that come with a racetrack. I had not heard that term before. Suarez, that's the mayor of Miami, who frequently talks up Miami coin in public, has embraced the idea of using the city's name to attract crypto enthusiasts. Quote, it's about the brand, and I think Miami punches above its weight in terms of branding, unquote. He said the $5.25 million in Miami coin proceeds has, quote, created benefit for our residents directly because there's a rental crisis in America. He said he plans to distribute additional revenue from the Miami coin mining process within the next few months. What remains to be seen is how long the coins can attract investor interest if their values decline, and how many government officials might champion an investment that could quickly lose buyers' money. Philadelphia recently opted against pursuing a Philly-branded city coin. So if you want to weigh in here and share your thoughts, you're welcome to join us. The number is 603-283-6160. I don't imagine a lot of our libertarian audience is going to be interested in city coins, but they are out there, and I don't think they're going to go away. I mean, even though they might be down in price by 50%, for some people, they're just going to see that as a buying opportunity.
Sure.
Oh, hey,
and maybe they're smart to do so.
Yeah, I mean, it could work out for some people. So far, it's been a loser for the people that have gotten into it early. Quote, municipalities and heads of municipalities need to be aware of what they're doing, said a strategist at D.A. Davidson. He said they're promoting a product that could lead to their citizens losing money. Well, their citizens lose money every time they get taxed anyway, so what's new there?
Yeah, every time because the way all these cities work is what people got to understand is there's a few different ways they work, but of course they always give sweetheart, pork-filled, contracts to their friends that have, construction companies and consulting firms and, and even as we're going to get into, the state gives, these people tons of money to like house foster kids through DCYF.
And abuse them.
That can happen too. I definitely knew some foster parents.
Mm-hmm.
So we used to do a writing program at our farm, and we had actually a whole group of foster kids would come up, and they were good people. But there's definitely some folks who are in it for the wrong intention. That's for sure.
We can get deeper into that here in a moment. Just want to share one more point here from the story, and that is, what about use? Is anyone using the city coin,
That's
the Miami
important.
coin? At least one Miami area retailer is willing to accept the city-branded cryptocurrency Advanced Impact Glass Systems, a 15-year-old family business that sells hurricane windows. But while the company's been advertising its willingness to accept Miami coin along with STX and Bitcoin, even painting digital currency symbols on the side of its warehouse facing a busy highway, customers remain uninterested. Quote, as far as people using it, said the project manager, we have yet to see that.
So I wonder if that place has gotten paid in Bitcoin, though, the glass place.
I suspect he was referring to all of the above, but that is not clear with this. But the fact is, Miami isn't the crypto city that they want you to believe that it is,
Right.
or that maybe they just want to build it into. But as of right now, despite all of the crypto people that fly in once a year to go to a crypto or a Bitcoin, I should say Bitcoin conference, it's crypto not allowed, only Bitcoin. For all the people that spend a few days a week or a few days a year in Miami that are for crypto, that's not enough to encourage a business to start accepting Bitcoin. To have people amble in one time a year is just generally not going to cut it.
Right.
You've got to have like a community of people that are interested in spending the cryptocurrency. And the fact is, these Bitcoin maximalists are just not interested in that. Now, maybe the Miami coin adopters, if there are enough of them, would be interested in that. But then again, you're dealing with a city of, I don't know, what, 1 million people? There's got to be at least 1 million or so people down there in Miami. It's a huge area. So, of course, the larger the city, the harder it's going to be to get into accepting cryptocurrency and actually have it be worthwhile, because you have to have some significant percentage of users to actually come in and spend this stuff. And if you're one little business on one end of town, well, most people aren't going to be going out of their way to go and get a sandwich from you or whatever. Although some crypto people are certainly willing to go out of their way, but it's one thing to go out of your way in Keene, New Hampshire, where you can drive across the city in 5 minutes. And it's a whole other story to go out of your way in a city like Miami.
And we still do go out of our way sometimes. We go over to Taco Beyond-O and we'll drive.
Yeah, that's a 45-minute drive.
45 minutes to get a taco or a
That's true.
burrito.
The number is 603-283-6160. You can join us here. It's Free Talk Live.
Uncovering the secrets and exposing the lies. That's what the readers of freedomsphoenix.com get every day. freedomsphoenix.com, constantly providing the information, the real news about government policies, and the real relationship we all have with the coercive government. The real condition of the economy, innovations in technology, breakthroughs in energy, health, and computer science. Learn the truth well before it's admitted to in the lamestream media. The corporate media, nothing more than distributors of government propaganda, but now there's an alternative. freedomsphoenix.com. Constant news updates on the issues that affect your life in the most important ways. With liberty and property under constant attack, freedomsphoenix.com provides the understanding behind the propaganda, and it encourages the participation of its readers. Go to freedomsphoenix.com. That's freedoms with an S, phoenix.com. freedomsphoenix.com. The revolution between the ears has already happened.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live listen line, 641-793-0191. Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live, the phones are open. You can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. It's Ian, Jay, and Matt in the studio here tonight. We'll talk in a little while about people's spending habits are changing, as you might imagine, as money gets tighter and tighter with inflation affecting pretty much everyone. Unless you've gone total crypto or total gold and silver, total alternatives where you're not even earning dollars, you're not even touching dollars. And Jay, you might almost be to that point. I don't know what percentage, because I know you used to offer people a significant discount if they paid you in cryptocurrency as opposed to the U.S. dollar. How's that turned out for you? I know you've been doing it for the last couple of years at least, if not longer. What percentage?
I'll give you...
if you can say.
I can say how it turned out for me.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 years ago... you guys, my daughter Cypress was born.
Yep.
And sitting in a hospital watching some TV. And I don't have a TV at my house. I haven't had a TV since I moved to my parents' house, basically.
Yeah, me neither.
And so it's like whatever, CNN or Fox or something. And we were in there for a few days. Wife had to have a C-section, and so I'm sort of watching these. This is February 2020, and right before the scamdemic, and so. Shortly after that, I cashed up some of my cryptocurrency. I bought 250 piglets. I bought, a whole bunch of, infrastructure to sort of deal with them, and paid guys to help me cut down trees and clear land and
put up fence
and feed these piglets, and then I sold them on Craigslist it was $100 if you paid me. Cryptocurrency, bullion, or bullets that I put on a Craigslist ad, and it was $150 if you pay cash.
Wow!
So a
33% discount.
Correct.
Wow, that's pretty deep.
Now to
Very
pass,
nice.
so I basically have earned a lot of cryptocurrency at a few months ago when it was really high in the 60s and the 70s. And I've held on to it, and now it's what is it, 40 something today?
Yeah, 43, something like that.
So I've had to definitely cash some up at a loss, and I definitely gave people a discount for accepting it. So it financially hurt me actually pretty bad because I got to pay property taxes, or men with guns are going to show up and tell me I can't live there,
right?
And you got to pay electric bill. I buy diesel fuel, and I hire some help, and I buy corn, and I buy pig feed, and I buy grain, and and just all kinds of stuff. Plus we got to live, and so it's I'm not like crying about it, but it just happens. It's it's kind of the way it goes.
Sure. I mean, it could have gone up, and you've been. I know you've been cooking for years at the Porcupine Freedom Festival. As I recall, you've been accepting crypto for that too.
Yep.
So that's probably gone up, right? Like over all those years.
Yeah, that's done. And all the money I earned at PorcFest last year went to pay property tax, basically.
Yeah.
Actually, PorcFest was a little sad last year, money wise. I did actually.
Really, wasn't it the biggest year yet?
I was just not in the right spot, and the problem with PorcFest is they were all like, "There's going to be so many people, and there's not enough vendors. Everybody bring food. Everybody bring food." So people are like, "Oh man, I'd love to buy your stuff, but I packed my freezer and I packed coolers full of meat because they said there wasn't going to be enough vendors here."
What?
Oh yeah, even Sean Grissom, he didn't do too well because he brought he brought all his food trucks. He didn't
That's a shock.
I'm not sure how much he lost. He didn't really make any money. Wow. I might have made a little bit money, but the year before was way better.
Huh.
And actually, what actually made the break even point, because I came home with a whole bunch of meat I couldn't sell. And what actually made the broke even point is when they had Ian Fest here for your birthday party. and basically what my thing was all right, I'm just cooking up all this meat. You guys just give me whatever you want. And I don't know how much money was in the pot, but basically I was able to totally pay all the property taxes.
Wow.
After Ian Fest.
Amazing.
And
I had no
quite
idea.
able to pay the property taxes, before Ian Fest. I was a little disappointed with PorcFest for that, and then we stayed all through. We stayed up there for the 2 weeks, and then I got really sick as soon as I got home. For a couple of days. But I'll be back there. I don't know if I'm going to stay. It stayed a whole 2 weeks. We got a major expansion of our farm going on, and we got a lot going on, and but I'll definitely be up there for as much of it as we can. We might go up there and then just leave the campsite set up and come home for a couple of days and then go back. We're not sure what we're going to do yet. But
cool. Well, we're expecting to be there, and whether I can attend or not is going to be up to my federal handlers.
And you know what, Ian? If you can't, we're totally doing another Ian Fest. And Jay, if you bring meat and do this again, I will contribute all the side dishes and hot.
Sweet.
That worked out really good.
That was
great.
great.
Was a nice setup.
Corn to the cob, potatoes, all kinds of
Appreciate
stuff.
that. By the way, ForkFest is happening. You mentioned there's 2 weeks, Jay, and of course the first week is the Porcupine Freedom Festival. As we mentioned, that is nearly, if not completely, sold out at this point. If you're going to get a ticket to that, you may have to buy it on the secondary market, and those are usually available. Check out porkfest.com for that. The week after is the 6th annual ForkFest. That is the decentralized alternative where there's no central committee, there's nobody deciding, there's no official organizer. It's just every individual shows up and they decide what to do. So if you want to create a poker game for people to play, if you want to put on karaoke, if you want to have a band play, that's up to you. You got to make it happen at ForkFest. So you go to forkfest.party. You can learn more about the event. It's happening June 27th through July 3rd. Rogers Campground is the same place that it happens every year. It's a beautiful location in the White Mountains of New Hampshire, and it is decentralized. All you have to do to attend, there's no tickets because, again, there's no central organization. All you have to do to attend ForkFest is just reserve your campsite, your RV site, or your motel room with Rogers Campground for any time between June 27th and July 3rd. And if you can stay all the way through the weekend, I recommend it because they've got a killer fireworks show that they do at the hotel there at Rogers Campground every year. It's absolutely incredible. So if you like a good fireworks show, you don't want to miss this. Head over to forkfest.party. You can learn more there. So, Jay, you've been targeted by the DCYF people not once, but twice.
That's correct.
There were some allegations about your wife using marijuana at some point, and they started an investigation over that. I don't know, was that last year? I think
that was 6 months ago when my son was born.
Yeah, and they started that. That seemed to kind of blow over relatively quickly. You didn't give him any rope, right?
No. I said to him, hey, you guys leave me alone, mind your own business, and I'm not interested in. I said I reject your offer to contract with me.
They wanted to talk to you, I presume.
Right. Well, what they wanted to do was come look in the house, and they wanted to they wanted to make sure my wife didn't breastfeed. And they and they sent us this information about, breastfeeding and THC and whatnot. And
what a bizarre world we live in right now.
Right. I mean, first off, so I'm like, where's the evidence that THC has, any damaging effects? And we all know there's all kinds of studies where it shows that, it has a lot of medicinal benefits, but the government, because the government has a protectionism racket for, they're providing for big pharma and, and big oil. I mean, the only reason cannabis is illegal is because basically Henry Ford was like, "Well, wow, we can use this in our Model T Ford, and we don't need to use Rockefeller's petroleum." And then that was after they got rid of alcohol, because Henry Ford the original Ford tractors and cars ran on alcohol. 120, 130 years ago, farmers all over America, they made their own fuel. They distilled alcohol. If they had leftover corn, leftover, grains, grasses, you could even trim weeds on the side of the road and you can get alcohol from them. And that is a tradition that's been an American tradition for a very long time, is used as an astringent, used as a motor fuel, used as a lamp fuel.
Alcohol is cool.
Alcohol is really cool. There's a guy named David Bloom. He wrote a book called Alcohol Can Be a Gas. And he explains how the temperance movement was paid by Rockefeller, U.S. Standard Oil at the time, to get rid of alcohol, because alcohol was a motor fuel of the day. It's very clean, and it's about 106 octane. Your 7,000 power, your 7,000 horsepower funny cars, that launch a quarter mile in 2.7 seconds or whatever it is. They're extremely fast. They all run on alcohol.
That doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, I didn't know that about the temperance movement, but I'm not shocked. I mean, you mentioned cannabis, and of course we know that I think it was DuPont was one of the organizations against.
It was DuPont. It was Big Oil, because hemp seed
and the newspapermen
and newspaper. Right. So cannabis, you basically took the fiber and you made hemp products, and then you had the seed left over, and you pressed the seed, and there was such a huge market for this, such a huge surplus of hemp oil from pressing the seed, and then you would use the dried seed as animal feed. It was really good animal feed. It's good human feed, and then you have this oil left over that it basically diesel engines run off, and in fact Rudolph Diesel pretty much created the diesel engine to run on hemp oil
on purpose, so that farmers could make their own fuel.
Because in Germany you couldn't get crude oil; you had to use whale oil.
We're going to continue here. Hour number 2 is on the way. We'll get an update from Jay on the latest on the situation with his kids being threatened by DCYF, and I know you're certainly not alone in this situation, Jay. So maybe some other folks out there can, take a lesson or two from some of the things you've learned. We'll get into it coming up. It's Free Talk Live. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealestate.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks.
We have significant losses of troops, and it's a huge tragedy for us.
Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov admitting for the first time that a substantial number of Russian troops have died on the Ukrainian battlefield. He spoke today exclusively to Britain's Sky News and said that Russian troops had pulled back from Kiev to give negotiations a chance to succeed. He denied that Russian troops had committed war crimes, said Moscow was a victim of fake news, and said the Kremlin sees no possibility of Vladimir Putin or members of his inner circle ending up before a war crimes tribunal. Mr. Peskov was speaking as the UN General Assembly voted to throw Russia out of the UN Human Rights Council. FSN's Sarah Walton covering that story from our bureau at UN headquarters.
In introducing the resolution to remove Russia from the Human Rights Council to the UN General Assembly, the Ukrainian ambassador Sergei Kislyak compared Russia's invasion with the Rwandan genocide of 1994, initial warnings of which were not recognised by the UN. He said the credibility of the Human Rights Council was at risk unless Russia was suspended. The Russian representative said the move was a politically motivated attempt by the West to maintain dominance in international relations, and he said the accusations of human rights violations committed by Russia were based on fake news. In the end, 93 members of the UN General Assembly voted yes to Russia's suspension, 24 voted against, including China and Iran. 58 countries abstained from the vote. Libya is the only other country to have ever been suspended from the Human Rights Council after government violence against protesters in 2011. Sarah Walton, New York.
In Russia, Nobel Peace Prize winning journalist Dmitry Muratov was attacked on a train in the southwest of the country. Red paint was thrown at him and one of his eyes was reportedly damaged. In Washington, an historic moment on Capitol Hill.
On this vote, the yeas are 53, the nays are 47, and this nomination is confirmed.
Vice President Kamala Harris announcing that Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson will become the first black woman to sit on the U.S. Supreme Court. From FSN's Washington Bureau, Nick Harper reports.
Every Democrat senator, along with 3 Republicans, approved her nomination, handing President Joe Biden a big win. When running for president, he'd pledged to nominate a black female. This confirmation is a fulfillment of that campaign promise. We're told the president and the newly minted justice watched the Senate vote at the White House. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
The Supreme Court in Pakistan has ruled that Prime Minister Imran Khan acted unconstitutionally when he dissolved Parliament earlier this week, fearing he was about to lose a no-confidence vote. The vote will now take place this weekend and could oust him from power. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, an eyewitness account of the situation in Bucha, just outside Kiev, where some of the Russian army's worst atrocities appear to have been committed. Belle True is the international correspondent for the Independent newspaper of Britain, and she's there.
I mean, the scenes are basically of utter devastation. I was just on one street where there was obviously about a dozen different Russian armoured vehicles that had come under heavy fire. And it was just like something out of an apocalyptic moonscape. But miraculously, there was a family who'd actually stayed put, hiding in their cellar. The teenage boy told me that he was nearly summarily executed by Russian soldiers and his life was saved by a commander at the very last second. He said that one of his neighbours, his body had been eaten by rats, went to apartment buildings that had been heavily looted. There's a trench of mass graves. So I talked to the priest there, who said that they basically had to make these mass graves because there was no electricity to keep the fridges going in the morgue, and the morgues were overflowing. And so he was basically just digging up the backyard of the church to give some semblance of a burial for people. And he estimated, well, they stopped counting at 100 bodies. So the sort of feeling here is just so grim, it's hard to put into words.
She says she also met some families returning to Bucha to check up on the homes they left behind, but she reports that the area is littered with landmines and extremely hazardous for those people attempting to get back. The main news again, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov has admitted for the first time that a significant number of Russian troops have died on the Ukrainian battlefield. Nobel Peace Prize winning Russian journalist Dmitry Muratov was attacked today on a train. Red paint was thrown at him, damaging his sight in one eye. And the Senate has confirmed Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson as the first black woman to join the US Supreme Court. And that is the latest feature story news. Simon Marks reporting.
Thomas the Tank Engine says he's a little uneasy with his broad autistic following, and a couple has a nest egg of debt to make sure they've got some money to owe down the road. This is the Onion Week in Review. Local video editor James Korf told reporters Wednesday that despite having said goodbye over 10 minutes ago, his friend, Michael Woodward, still remained active on GChat and had shown no signs of leaving.
If it were yellow, it would mean that he hasn't been on the computer for a little while, or if it was red, it would mean he doesn't want to talk, but it's green. I can tell. I can see it right there.
Korf later said that he felt briefly relieved when Woodward's chat logo turned orange, but was once again dejected when it became green within seconds. And in this week's op-ed pages, a high school guidance counselor laments the fact that no one in his entire damn school has been molested. In other news, a bedbug feels bad for an area man, but a bug's gotta eat. A development exec wants to see what, where, and how that would look, live, and play out. And a man at the gym is just watching TV. For more, visit theonion.com/newsbeat.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. You can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. Whether you want to talk about cryptocurrency, the Bitcoin conference going on right now in Miami, or the Monero conference. We started the show with that. But now we're talking about DCYF attacking our friend and sometime co-host. He's back tonight. Jay Noon is with us. Also, it's Ian and Matt in the studio. The number again, 603-283-6160. They are coming at your family, Jay Noon, and there's an order that has been issued by some robed man or woman out of, was it Hillsborough District there?
That's correct, Hillsborough District Court, and the judge's stamped signature on here is Aaron B. McIntyre.
So Ms. McIntyre ordered some armed people to go to your house and try to intimidate their way into your home. That didn't work last week.
The social workers are not armed,
but the cops who showed up were.
The cops who showed up are very much on my side in this particular situation.
Now that, of course, I'm skeptical of, because it's hard to believe the police are going to take the side of someone who's not one of their own bureaucrats. But these people don't always work directly together. They're like, you described it as city people, right? Like you said, the people from DCYF were city dwellers,
city urban liberal types.
Mm-hmm.
City urban liberal types.
Right. Yes. One of them looked like she was, straight out of the central casting for Butch Dyke Lesbian.
Yeah. So it could also be stated as city urban nonsense types.
Sure. I like city urban. Tim Pool's the one who
got that one.
Who uses that term and we refer to it as an acronym, city urban liberal type, for cult.
Oh, okay.
Because the it is essentially, so government is essentially a cult, but what is happening, and is
it is totally a cult. It is totally a
100%.
We are in the midst of a multi-generational culture war.
Absolutely. I've been saying that for years. I saw you say it the other day, and I was so refreshed that somebody else spit that out. And I've been saying for years it's going to be, what it's going to come down to is city people versus country people. Like, this is the way we live, and it's not the way we want to live. We don't want to live the way you live, but they have more voting power, so they're just going to force their ways on us.
Like one of the cops that showed up, for example, is a Henniker cop, and at my property because literally the DCYF workers are pretty much just aggravating, the Henniker police, best I can tell. They're like, they're sort of like and just kind of quiet about what they say. They're a little careful. They know I like record, and I got cameras out.
The video's
and,
up at freekeen.com for those who haven't seen it.
And like I got some surveillance cameras on the property, and so they're like, they're on
their best behavior.
They're on their best behavior. But even like the one guy, one officer showed up that was in that video, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I grew up on a dairy farm." And,
had you met him before?
Not that particular guy. No, there's another guy who's a former Special Forces guy. I forget his name, but he's like the guy that has showed up a couple of times when there was like we do a big pig roast every spring. We're doing one in a couple weeks, is he showing up to get some pig, or is he showing up because some busybody neighbor called them in? Because my neighbor calls them in, and so he's also the same guy. He comes over. He goes, "We just want to tell you that there was a noise complaint about because I host a gun church event
every week or every other week."
Well, it's like it's once a month. It's usually the third third Sunday of the month. But we didn't do one last month because it was mud season.
It's your right to do, by the way. They don't have a prohibition against firing guns in most small towns in New Hampshire.
And it's exactly what the cop said. And he's like, "Hey, listen, you guys aren't in trouble. You have a right to do it." He says, "We can't stop you from doing it." And he says, "I'm glad you guys are exercising your right to bear arms."
Okay.
And we just want to let you know. And so we chatted a little bit. So we've chatted a handful of times. That guy's name is, I think, Jesse. I don't know his last name, but like he seemed, he seems like he's just, he strikes. Now I've done my police interactions go back my entire life. The first police interaction. Well, first off, so my grandfather was a state trooper.
Oh, wow.
My mom's father was a lieutenant detective in the Massachusetts State Police. Now, he retired in like 1984. I was like, 4 or 5 years old then, so I don't remember those days. But I do, he'd like, ride around with us, and he'd tell us about like things he's done and like, saving people. And he even like, I can remember being like, I don't know, I was like old enough to drive a car. I was 16, 17, and we were talking about traffic tickets. And I was with him one day, and he's like, I go, "What's that about?" I go, "Is it about safety or about revenue?" He goes, "Oh, it's totally about revenue."
Wow.
They know it.
And he's like, if you don't, as a police officer, if you don't like, perform, and then now they all claim that like there is no such thing as a quota, but there are every now and then.
No, it's called a departmental average. That's the terminology they use.
That term.
So the departmental average is not a quota. So whenever they're asked, "Do you guys have a quota at such and such police department?" they can say, "No, we don't have a quota."
They're so dirty.
And what they mean is, yes, we have a departmental average, which is, okay, what's the average number of tickets written per month by each officer in the department? If you're above the average, you get an attaboy, and if you're below the average, you get your butt kicked.
If that's the case, why don't cops just be better people and gang up on the system themselves and say, "You know what, guys? We ought to average this down."
Well, they need the revenue.
They get canceled. Like anybody else.
You get the overnight shift or the whatever the crappy shift is. And
it's the same.
No overtime.
Right.
It's the same reason why nobody in the legislature, wants to essentially like go after DCYF or go after
to abolish it completely,
right,
or abolish the liquor commission.
Correct.
And things like that. Yeah.
But even like DCYF and the teachers union, especially, and like and going after these teachers and because they're very afraid to get canceled.
Mm-hmm.
And most politicians aren't really concerned about serving the people. Their concern is to get reelected.
Right. That's why I was so proud of the 13 reps that voted for, but not for independence, but for allowing the people in New Hampshire to vote on independence. Only 13 out of 400 reps voted for this, and it was 323 to 13. So we need more people with the courage to actually put their convictions on the line.
So thinking, digress a little bit. Let me throw this out there with respect to an election that's going to be coming up pretty soon.
Every 2 years, the whole state gets reelected.
There's a great idea to make signs. So we make yard signs that have an arrow on them, and it says, "Voted to mask your children." I've been seeing up. And so what you do is you put it right next to whoever was a politician that voted to mask your children.
Okay.
So my property, I have about 1,300 foot of road frontage on that, State Route 114.
Yep.
It's not a really busy road, but it's pretty trafficy in the morning and in the evening. And so I'm going to make like a corral of all of the political signs of all the like locals that are in Hillsborough, County and Merrimack County because I'm right on the line.
Mhm.
Ware is in Hillsborough County. Concord is on Merrimack County. So we'll do all the all the local Dunbarton, and pretty much everybody would drive by. So Dunbarton, Deering, Henniker, Ware, and we're going to make a corral, and I'm going to put an electric fence around it because, I don't know if I told you about this. I had my anti-mask signs out front, and this old lady tore them all apart, and I got it on video.
Really?
Yeah, and we just found out who she is. She's some local, career parasite from Ware. She's always
She's a government worker?
She's retired.
Wow. She thinks she's completely immune. She might be. Are they going to bring charges?
No. I just want to make fun of her.
Just embarrass her?
Yeah, I just want to expose
Because
just how
that's
petty.
supposed to be a felony, right? Like if you go out there and you mess with somebody else's political signs,
that's a big deal.
Crime.
Yep, and we got it all on camera.
Wow.
Which is pretty hilarious. And
would you get a deer camera out there or something?
No, I got a pretty decent security system set up at my place.
And you could identify her?
I didn't, but I posted it in a couple local
Somebody
signal
knew her
chats,
car or whatever,
and they're
they can
like,
tell.
"Oh, we know who she is," and yeah, they identified. And
Hey, Jay, it would be great to bring some of that taxpayer money back to you. Maybe you should have a talk with her about the legal ramifications of destroying your political speech.
Yeah. Show up. You're getting good with video. Show up at her house with a video camera and show her the footage.
I'm sure we
Get a
can come to
reaction.
something here.
She'll
to
be at a
make
town
this
meeting
right
soon.
Okay, right on. We got more coming up here with what's going on. And that's one of the benefits of being in a small town. It's like everybody knows everybody. You can't hide.
Don't do stupid things when you live in a small town or anywhere.
There's more coming up here at 603-283-6160. You can join us on the radio. This is Free Talk Live. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
When a lunar observatory detects a radio broadcast originating from Proxima Centauri, the nations of Earth discover their first contact with an alien race may also be their last. With the Proximans facing an extinction-level disaster, Earth must choose between sending a ship on a multi-year journey or allowing nature to take its course. Saving Proxima, a hard science fiction thriller by Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson from BaneBooks.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it! You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market. Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing. To be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
How many lawyers does it take to change a light bulb? None. They'd rather keep their clients in the dark. There are too many lawyer jokes to count. However, there are some lawyers with more noble intentions. At the Institute for Justice, we bring the light to our clients. We are a non-profit public interest law firm with clear values and principles. At IJ, we fight for those whose most basic rights are denied by the government. Visit our website today at ij.org.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. You can join us here. You can bring up whatever's on your mind. The number is 603-283-6160. I want to say thanks to Dan Gaudreau, who is a Free Talk Live supporter, a longtime supporter of Free Talk Live. Silver level, which means he is doing at least $5 a month over at amps.freetalklive.com. AMPS stands for Advertise, Market, Promote, and Support. It's a way for you to help us get Free Talk Live onto more great radio stations around the country and expose new people to the ideas of liberty. If you think that's worth $5 a month, then please join Dan over at amps.freetalklive.com. That's amps.freetalklive.com. We're going to go to your phone calls, more about what's going on in Jay Noon with his family being attacked by and threatened by the DCYF goons. You can see video of their first visit to your farm that happened this past Friday.
Yeah, that's correct.
That video is up over at freekeen.com, the Freekeen Odyssey channel, so check that out. We'll continue the discussion here about the culture war as well, as Jay has described it. Sarah, though, is in New Mexico. Sarah, you're on Free Talk Live. Sarah? Oops, sorry, my bad.
Levitation.
There you are.
Yeah, can you hear
What
me
now?
now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I was gonna bring up the magnetic levitation trains, and so there.
You love a good choo-choo.
Well, the thing is that they have these in Europe and in Japan for many decades. So, and we don't have them here in the U.S., and they're very environmental. So it's magnetic, and then when they run the electric current through the train, it actually is suspended for one inch. That's why they call it a levitation train. So it has no friction, so that it could travel up to like 100 miles per hour. It goes very, very fast.
Yeah, it sounds like cool technology. What about it?
Okay, so my whole point is that, we need to bring this to America.
We who?
I mean, the environmentalists, the people like myself that want clean energy. This is definitely a clean energy train.
They've tried bringing these technologies to America. So what happened in California, and I believe I heard it on Free Talk Live. I don't know where I heard it. And, I'm just recalling this from years ago. So there was some thing where they spent like $50 million. They had a budget of $50 million to build this, phase of, trenching out, the ground and setting it all up to put this track in. And they get 10% way through the project, and the money is just all
dried up,
gone. And they've spent
they went way over budget,
triple budget, and nothing, a road to nowhere thing, like the Boston Big Dig thing cost.
Well, that happens with every government project.
Every government project is just lining the pockets of all their friends.
But Sarah's talking about environmentalists like her doing it.
Yeah, that's what
I would be okay with that.
It sounds like you're saying, Sarah, you want to raise money voluntarily to make a maglev train, right? Like you want the environmentalists to pour some money into a fund and buy some private property and put a train on it. That's what you're saying, right?
No, I just think that they need to take out this corruption out
That's not going to happen at the government level. But Sarah, if you start a project to build a maglev train that's going to function anywhere in the United States, I will personally invest $500 toward it.
Wow, even if you never get to ride it?
Even if I never get to ride it.
Man,
but if
dedication.
Sarah is going to do this and raise private capital to do it, I will be in for $500 and I want a return on the investment.
All right, so that's really easy to do, Sarah. So you want to go to a website, Give, Send, Go.
Give, Send, Go.
Just set one of these up.
I'm more concerned about educating the public that this exists. The problem is that the public can't put pressure to build these things without all the money getting siphoned out, like you said, a big gig and the bridge to nowhere in Alaska. And actually, they've been doing this in Albuquerque here. They've been embezzling money for this and this forever. This
I'm
state
sure.
is
So
a
you
state
know
for
then that the
embezzlement.
government cannot be trusted to do this job.
But here's the thing about New Mexico. The Albuquerque is that they did put up bus lines in the long run because people demanded buses. In the meanwhile, they would get federal grant money to New Mexico and would get all siphoned out, and none of the buses would get built. But now we got Rapid Ride, we got Rail Runner, we got bus services because people know that we can have a better service. Now we ride the bus for free. It's so once you take if enough people get educated, that's why they want us stupid. All the TV shows are just entertainment. They want us to be dumb, so that we don't know that these things exist. So my whole point is I'm calling this show, because it's important to me that whatever listeners are listening in the radio and the computer and the internet, if they know that these things exist and you could implement it, it's the matter of you demand it. You know that you want these things and you can make it happen.
But you didn't answer my question. You are acknowledging that the government is not the right way to implement this program, right? Like, you know they're going to waste money. You know they're going to screw things up, right?
Yeah, but what are my hopes of raising funds that comes like billions of dollars to make this happen? When you got the petroleum oil companies into it, they're the one that's big deals. They're the one that's fighting.
So because you don't believe in yourself, you want to turn to the state, even though you know that they're going to throw money down a rat hole, set it on fire, give it to all their buddies. You still believe in them, even though you already acknowledged that they are terrible at this.
Right, and also part of it is petroleum.
That's
oil
not a surprise.
That's a.
You knew your $500 was going to be safe. Didn't you,
I'm not. I could have told her $50,000 and she still would have beat her on the bush. Sarah, if you form a corporation, which I know you hate as a communist, but if you form a corporation, you can raise the money you need from people like me who are interested in seeing something like that happen.
If people are interested, yeah, the money is there. If that's what people actually want, they'll put money into it, and it will happen. But that's the thing. Government loves to do projects that people aren't interested in, that only the politically connected few are interested in. Thank you, Sarah, for the call tonight. The number, if you want to join us, 603-283-6160.
If Sarah did that, she wouldn't siphon a single dollar. If she really believes in it, she would put as much money as she possibly could and not lose a penny because it's got to go to that project. She knows how important it is.
Sarah, I'm very proud of you. You've come a long way.
She has.
Yeah, she's not working. She's not living in a welfare house now.
That's great.
That's great. And I honestly just feel better, listening to Sarah, that she acknowledges these things that we've been talking about for years with the wasting government. And the thing is, any kind of project, you can never build an interstate system with all the red tape you have going on, and there's just no way to get anything done.
You would be allowed.
It's almost impossible to build a house somewhere without filling out all kinds of forms, even in the middle of woods. And Sarah talked about the dumbing down and the bread and circus, and everybody's being controlled by the bread and circus. And that's another thing I really want to get into is I've been working on a lecture on investing in our posterity, and our posterity is everyone's kids. That is the future, and we got a big problem that's going to hit us like a ton of bricks really soon in this country.
We'll talk about it coming up here. The number is 603-283-6160. You can join us. You can bring up whatever's on your mind. Plus, inflation is affecting people's spending habits. We'll tell you some of the ways that is the case. Of course, you're welcome to join us and bring whatever up that is on your mind to discuss here on Free Talk Live.
You can't win if you don't enter, and you actually can improve your chances of winning a prize drawing if you wrinkle up your entry blank. I'm Holland Cook from survivalspeech.com, and I speak from experience. Why this works: if they'll be spinning the drum before drawing, your entry blank will move around more than, and not adhere to, other perfectly flat entry blanks. And if they don't spin the drum and merely reach into a box full of other perfectly flat entry blanks, many of which are sticking together, yours will feel different to the person reaching in. When you win, act surprised. And if you're looking for work, this is a metaphor. For more tips on sticking out in a world where just too much blends into the blah, 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 hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks.
We have significant losses of troops, and it's a huge tragedy for us.
Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov admitting for the first time that a substantial number of Russian troops have died on the Ukrainian battlefield. He spoke today exclusively to Britain's Sky News and said that Russian troops had pulled back from Kiev to give negotiations a chance to succeed. He denied that Russian troops had committed war crimes, said Moscow was a victim of fake news, and said the Kremlin sees no possibility of Vladimir Putin or members of his inner circle ending up before a war crimes tribunal. Mr. Peskov was speaking as the UN General Assembly voted to throw Russia out of the UN Human Rights Council. FSN's Sarah Walton covering that story from our bureau at UN headquarters.
In introducing the resolution to remove Russia from the Human Rights Council to the UN General Assembly, the Ukrainian ambassador Sergei Kislyak compared Russia's invasion with the Rwandan genocide of 1994, initial warnings of which were not recognised by the UN. He said the credibility of the Human Rights Council was at risk unless Russia was suspended. The Russian representative said the move was a politically motivated attempt by the West to maintain dominance in international relations, and he said the accusations of human rights violations committed by Russia were based on fake news. In the end, 93 members of the UN General Assembly voted yes to Russia's suspension, 24 voted against, including China and Iran. 58 countries abstained from the vote. Libya is the only other country to have ever been suspended from the Human Rights Council after government violence against protesters in 2011. Sarah Walton, New York.
In Russia, Nobel Peace Prize winning journalist Dmitry Muratov was attacked on a train in the southwest of the country. Red paint was thrown at him and one of his eyes was reportedly damaged. In Washington, an historic moment on Capitol Hill.
On this vote, the yeas are 53, the nays are 47, and this nomination is confirmed.
Vice President Kamala Harris announcing that Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson will become the first black woman to sit on the U.S. Supreme Court. From FSN's Washington Bureau, Nick Harper reports.
Every Democrat senator, along with 3 Republicans, approved her nomination, handing President Joe Biden a big win. When running for president, he'd pledged to nominate a black female. This confirmation is a fulfillment of that campaign promise. We're told the president and the newly minted justice watched the Senate vote at the White House. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
The Supreme Court in Pakistan has ruled that Prime Minister Imran Khan acted unconstitutionally when he dissolved Parliament earlier this week, fearing he was about to lose a no-confidence vote. The vote will now take place this weekend and could oust him from power. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. You can join us here. The number, 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In the studio, it's Ian,
Jay, and Matt.
Join us online anytime over at freetalklive.com. We have a bunch of features there. You can download episodes of the show that go back for years, and they are completely free. So head over to freetalklive.com. And we are, by the way, now on TikTok. Bonnie has launched a Free Talk Live TikTok channel. and we had our, what do you call them, followers, I guess, jump up from like 8 to 48 within the last 24 hours. So welcome to everybody who has followed us there. And we're going to keep posting, I guess Bonnie's going to keep posting clips to TikTok until they kick us off the platform, which we're sure is going to happen eventually, because I'm pretty sure Free Talk Live violates their terms of service. But check us out at Free Talk Live there on TikTok as well. So we're talking about the situation, just sort of overarching themes and discussions about the DCYF targeting of your children. Jay, you were just making a point about posterity, and I think you were driving at something that you wanted to get out there tonight.
So this is a topic I've been talking about for a long time. So as you guys know, I started Man Camp.
That's right, at the
which
Porcupine.
is great, by the way.
It was a feature of the Pork Fest and the Fork Fest, I believe, for a couple of years.
And it was a lot of fun. It cost me a lot of money to do. I bought a lot of stuff. It was just a lot of work, and it didn't make any money.
But it was about teaching kids how to get their hands dirty.
It was basically, Man Camp is my idea to build confidence in kids by letting them essentially take a piece of iron and make something useful out of it. So one of the projects so it's basically forging, blacksmithing, and welding. So I've had a whole bunch of, imagine a 6-year-old taking a piece of steel, putting it in a coal forge, getting it pink, cherry pink, and putting it on an anvil and just, banging it with a hammer, and about 20, 30, 40 minutes later, he's got himself a little coat hook. So one of the projects we would do with 6-year-olds is they would make about 4 or 5 coat hooks, and that's like about all the attention. Well, make about 3 coat hooks. Most of them have that's the attention's all gone, but a couple of them make 4 or 5. So I had 6-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 25-year-olds, college graduates. Basically, I've taught them. So you guys know those horseshoe coat racks I make?
Yep.
I weld horseshoes together. So like a bunch of kids did that. A bunch of guys did that. Forging, just simple forging stuff. And we make like a little bottle opener. And then what I call the squirrel cooker. It's like a little, fork that's about, 16 inches long, made out of 3 16th-inch steel. And the kids, point it and they twist it around and make it hot. And it's a lot of fun. The people that scare me when I do that was never like the homeschooled, earthy, crunchy hippie, like, young kids or teenagers. It was the college graduates are the ones who burnt themselves, are the ones who like dropped, like one guy dropped a piece of hot whatever in his, sneaker. And I was like, dude, you got to wear boots. So like I bought all the protective gear for the kids. So I bought kid size welding gloves. I had to custom order them. They were like $38 a pair. Like I really make sure I get those things back because they're super expensive, but they're like a 7-8-year-old can like hold on to things good and he's well protected. Another friend like bought a bunch of these really nice denim shirts. They're sort of like fire resistant. And then we also had like extra pairs of like pants the kids could just put right on over their other pants, so because you're playing with fire, you're playing with molten steel. You're banging things around. You wear gloves, and all of their parents were always with them. And but the thing is so I did this like at my house. Every summer I've had a bunch of kids come over, and different times, events, whatever. And they essentially pound iron. So that is a major confidence builder when a 6-year-old, makes himself a couple iron coat hooks and he hangs them up in the house in a few different places. One kid, he was like 8 when he did it. I think he's like 11 now. He made a toilet paper holder and a towel holder that's in the bathroom. And he says every time his mom says, hey, he couldn't wait to show his grandparents when they came up from Florida to visit, or, a friend comes over and, oh, look at this, what I made at Man Camp. And, oh, how'd you make that? Well, we got, and like his friends just can't comprehend how that makes. So this kid's like super proud of this. And also when you use creativity and have to like use your body to make something, and you got to, put some blood, sweat, and tears into it, and you also have to be careful. Well, you use both hemispheres of the brain to like make this happen. So a lot of times what I would do is I would, reference like a YouTube video. There's this guy, Alex Steele. He's from over in the UK, and he makes these awesome YouTube videos on all kinds of forging. Check out Alex Steele. And so Alex Steele like gave me these ideas for like beginner, beginner simple blacksmithing projects. So I, send And a lot of times I'm never even talking to the kids, like in, social, like on Telegram or whatever, or on Signal. I'm talking to the parents. So I'm like, hey, this is what we're going to do. Sit down and watch this with your kids. So the kids are like watching blacksmithing videos and they're really interested.
So they're getting prepped up for it.
Yep. So they get prepped. So I don't have to spend a whole bunch of time, going through over what they're doing.
Okay.
So they got to do homework first. You got to like pay attention. So when these kids do this, they learn about this and they watch things and they kind of absorb it on one side of their brain. So then what they have to do is now they have to take this information and now have to express it. So when you express that information, you got to use the creative side of the brain. You're now going to take the memory that you learned or the instructions you're being given by the instructor, and you have to do this. This is this kind of like interaction and wrapping your mind around like subjects does not exist really in the internet device era, because what's happening is most kids are using the internet devices essentially as pacifiers because their parents are lazy and don't want to babysit them. Or
in academia, for that matter, where it's almost all book reading, right? Like your book learned.
And that too. So when you can, this builds major confidence in these kids, and they feel good about themselves, and they're like, and it gives them an understanding of like when they walk into like the one kid, he sees like this metal art thing in Walmart, and it's like $4. He says to his dad, and his dad's like sending me text messages as this is going on, because he's like, how can that be $4? That would take me like at man camp like a whole day to manufacture. And he says, well, it comes from China, and they use slaves to make this, and like Hobby Lobby's full of this cheap cast iron art and this like garbage mass produced by slaves and Uyghur Muslims that are going to later be harvested for their organs, in China. It's Luke Radowski talks about this a real lot with the situation going on over there. So it sort of brings a reality into the world for kids, because most kids grow up, getting these entitlements from like Christmas and birthday and whatever. They don't understand the value of things because they don't create, they don't build. And then they're, sent to a public school, and then they go to a college, and then all of a sudden they're done with college, their brains all developed, and they're adults, and yet they've never engaged in any critical thinking whatsoever. Well, it takes critical thinking to do blacksmithing work. So Man Camp was my idea to save the world. So I've been aware of, and I've never used the term multi-generational cultural warfare until I started listening to the Timcast show, and Luke, has been talking about it for a while, and I've never really paid attention to that term because I just didn't really think it applied to me. You know what I mean? Because I'm not a city guy. I'm out in the country minding my own business and just trying to help out all my neighbors and friends because it's what I do.
Well, it turns out the city people don't want to mind their business,
and that's it. So my idea with Man Camp is if we can, and Man Camp is, when I use the term man, I'm talking about mankind. We're all men.
Okay.
And as far as I'm concerned, a woman is a man with a womb. But if there's two kinds of people who want government, there's people who lack confidence, and there's people and they're scared, and then there's people who are sociopaths that want to use that authority of government to control others. So if we can instill confidence in young children, and they can get that dopamine hit off of building that product, or
I did something. I made that.
I did something. You were doing dirt bikes and stuff when you were a little kid, right?
Sure.
So you got the dopamine hits from that.
Yep, love it. Still do.
Instead of winning a video game. Or
confident
like
people don't need government. Is the bottom line.
Yeah, that's true. There's more coming up here. If you want to share your thoughts, 603-283-6160. Just the city people just don't want to leave other people alone. The number is 603-283-6160. But that's part of the reason why we need more freedom-loving folks to come here to New Hampshire if you actually want to be free in your lifetime. There's more coming up.
Free Talk Live.
So what would you imagine how long this body was sitting there for? A matter of weeks? Months?
Probably months. There were about 25 or 30 dead cats in the house.
Oh, my goodness.
It was not a pretty scene. Literally, it was from the floor to the ceiling. This person had put newspapers and magazines, Life magazines, going back probably to day one, and Geographic going back into the previous century, and food boxes that were ancient. And she had lived through a tunnel that basically connected her bedroom area to a bathroom.
What about the kitchen? Did she not prepare food?
She kept food in the bedroom and then had a...
That's nice.
I guess she used her window to get in and out. That's the best we could figure out.
Yeah, this is no problem that a good coat of fire wouldn't fix.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to mymagicmud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. mymagicmud.com, FTL20.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
Hi, I'm Derek J. I don't want a politician to represent me. To me, government is the idea that one group of people can coerce everyone to comply with an edict, or face increasing punishments up to and including death. Despite perhaps the most noble of intentions, the best government services are a far cry from what could be provided for by voluntary interactions. Besides, the people who call themselves the government wage wars and put peaceful people in jail for crimes involving no victims. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio is great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. The phones are open. You can join us. The number 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Ian, Jay, and Matt in the studio here tonight. I did just post, by the way, a link to our social media account, social.freetalklive.com. Our account is at FTL. It is a link to Help the Noons, which is a Give, Send, Go donation site. We learned about Give, Send, Go during the Canadian trucker convoy as the Canadian government was cracking down. And, of course, what's the other one that's awful? GoFundMe.
GoFundMe, yeah.
They, of course, froze all those funds, and then the banks tried to freeze the funds. And then Give, Send, Go stepped up, and they said, we're not going to take down the fundraiser. And they did raise over, I think, $10 million Canadian in that particular case through Give, Send, Go. But, of course, the problem then came in when Give, Send, Go tried to transfer the money to the truckers' accounts. the bank accounts got frozen, so they never actually ended up getting a dime out of Give, Send, Go, and I think all the money ended up being refunded, if I recall.
People got to get away from government money and the whole system that handles it. It's just all controlled.
Yeah.
Roger Ver started the Flip Starter thing.
The Bitcoin Cash thing.
That's a
yeah.
Bitcoin Cash based. Yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I knew he was promoting it. I didn't know if he was the one.
Oh, I don't know. Either way, it's a crypto analog to those types of things, and maybe
which cannot be stopped. You can't stop people's crypto contributions from coming in. Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen again with Give, Send, Go. This probably is going to be a successful fundraiser, and it will probably be dispersed without issue, because certainly the amount of attention given to Jay Noon's case is not going to be close to what happened in Canada.
Now, if we could blow it up so
nice, but
if we could blow it up so large that enough people see it and the state starts to look bad, they will shut this down through the banks too.
I don't know if they would get away with it, because they're not going to have the ability to say, oh, well, this is terrorism, like they did with the situation in Canada. I don't think
they could just say we're terrorists.
I guess they can say whatever they want.
And if they're going to do it, that's it just shows that the emperor has no clothes.
Yeah,
and
completely.
And every time the state retaliates, do you know how many people I know that are like, they just took all their money out of the bank over this
because of the trucker
thing? When you got the
I know some people closed their TD accounts, their TD bank accounts.
I know a lot of people did that. They took money out of the bank, and I'm like, and I've been telling everybody, I actually wrote a thing the other day in a local group chat, a Signal chat that some people from Ware and Henniker chat in, and it's all. A lot of it we've been recruiting into these Signal groups essentially locally, and getting on Signal are just my neighbors, and they literally have the same values as me. They moved to New Hampshire because it was less. A lot of people moved from Massachusetts to New Hampshire because of the income tax, and because they were sick of the mass holes. They were sick of the encroachment on their freedoms, the critical race theory in the schools, the fact that they're teaching their kids, the kids are being taught to dislike, to hate themselves. He's like, oh, my daughter comes home and she wants me to call her George now or something, and I'm like, well, dude, you send your kid to Caesar's schools, don't be upset when they come home acting like a Roman.
Yeah.
And so anyways, in that group, I kind of explained, like, the economy is basically like the Titanic. And I should probably bring it up and read it so I can get through it if you guys want to just say something.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I did post that link, so if you want to give some voluntary contributions to help out Jay and his family against their fight against DCYF, it is there now. It's a brand new fundraiser. They've only raised $200 so far, but I don't think it's been promoted at all.
No, we're gonna add more to that right now, because I'm gonna send some money to that Give, Send, Go right now.
We'll bump that up. Now, I don't see crypto options on here. Do you know if Give, Send, Go? And you didn't create the fundraiser. It was actually Angie, one of our other co-hosts, who created this. I feel like they would allow crypto links on there, but I don't know.
We're going to try.
Okay.
So, like I said, we just like, this just happened, hours ago with that, because we were looking at GoFundMe, and I had to shut off my phone like the past couple of afternoons so I could take a nap, because I just I've been trying to, like, I've been stressed,
Yeah. They're coming after your kids.
But anyways, just real quick thing. I'll read this. I am pretty confident the so-called bubble has popped. The only thing is, the bubble is like the Titanic. The normies on the left who follow the narrative are playing the violins. The bankers, big tech, media, pharma, and the war machine are stuffing their pockets with silverware and fine china. The elite got picked up by the helicopters.
Yep.
The working class and the crew of the ship are locked in the bilge and have just realized, or soon will, big tech and public education have turned their kids against them and have zombified everyone. It was like I was on a Titanic, but I got into a raft. Oh, I wrote this wrong. So basically, I was talking about how why is that missing from there? I got to fix this. In 2008, I was in the hay business, and I had like $50,000 in accounts receivables, because I had customers that paid me quarterly. I had customers that paid me annually, and and there was like 50 grand that I was owed, and basically about 40 of it I just never recovered. And like that backhoe I got, it was one of those deals that I was owed a bunch of money, and the guy gave it to me. He owed me like $7,500, sitting up at my place. And I write that I am so glad I am not on the Titanic this time around. I do not have any money owed to me, and my 25 and 20-year-old trucks are paid off.
It's a good feeling.
I have been telling everybody for years to practice barter, trade, using crypto, and practice not using bank accounts or credit cards for decades now. And if anybody has money in the bank, they are foolish. If and if your financial assets are in fiat, you are foolish. I am probably preaching to the choir here, but if anyone has questions and knows how to protect themselves, I can help you out. And then I just got a whole bunch of people, and I'm like, well, I just refer them to the libertyadvisor.com and bitcoin.com, and because I'm just sort of busy. But there's a lot of people freaking out right now. I just went and bought a bunch of cows the other that I bought like 3 weeks ago. I had to go pick them up because I had to come off the pasture, and there's another screw up with this whole thing because we were supposed to build a pasture last week for these cows, and now I had to send them to another farm, which is another thing that's really got me pissed off. And, it's going to be part of this lawsuit that I'm going to require $50,000 an hour for my time that basically the state's screwing me up with. But anyways, when I drove to Massachusetts, it looked like 2008 all over again the other day.
You mean as far as like the recession?
As far as there is just for sale signs for properties, for houses.
Really?
Just everywhere. Cars, trucks, excavators, bulldozers. I saw 2 bulldozers. I stopped and looked at an excavator. I got a friend looking to buy one. It wasn't really the right thing.
You think people they need money and that's why they're selling?
I think the money is really starting to evaporate. A lot of small business owners are just getting destroyed because nobody wants to come to work.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's crazy that nobody wants to work. Like I told you guys, I literally pay a babysitter $25 an hour to come work, and I only get her 1 day a week.
Mm-hmm.
And she's good because she does all the farm chores with my daughter, and and she can do that. So and I'm able to go do my mechanic work or things I can't do. I can't weld with kids around, because it's sort of a dangerous thing, and I got a lot of that to do. So I have a babysitter 1 day a week, and I'd love to get her a couple of days a week, but she's making like $30 and $35 working some other gigs, and she only works for me sort of at that discount because well, I pay her in cryptocurrency or I pay her in meat, and she's a good friend of mine. She likes to so it works well.
Yeah, well, I mean, we were talking before about people making a deliberate choice to come together as a community of freedom-loving people. You were talking about this culture war that's going on between the city liberal types and the country, more freedom-oriented people. And, whether that's the only division, we can put that aside for a moment. There's definitely a division between those who want to control others and those who want to live free. And if you want to live free, then I recommend getting out of Massachusetts, as you did, Jay.
Absolutely.
And actually, it was interesting. The Free State Project posted, I think it was from the Republican Party. They looked at the people who had registered to vote. And when you register to vote, they ask you where you were last registered to vote, so they have some idea of like who's moving in and that kind of thing. And the largest number of people moving to New Hampshire were coming up from Massachusetts. And a lot of people say, "Aha! The mass-holes are moving in. You guys will never have a chance." But the truth is, these are people like you described, Jay, people that are sick of big government and they want to get out of Massachusetts. They're not the Massachusetts liberals. They're mostly Republicans. Now, that doesn't, I don't really care that much about Republicans versus Democrats, but the truth is, in New Hampshire, the Republican Party is not quite dominated by Free Staters, but getting there. It's getting taken over slowly, bit by bit. I don't know what percentage the Free Staters are of the movers and the shakers in the Republican Party, but I'm going to guess it's a third of them, if not more.
The summer of 2020, where you have the radical left torching and burning and murdering and causing hundreds of billions of dollars worth of damage, and then they're all getting bailed out, has really upset a lot of the Republicans, and they have... And they're very sympathetic now to the libertarian cause.
They sound that way. I suspect once somebody from Mexico shows up, they'll change their tune, because I still hear them being very xenophobic. They're probably still, anti-drug or whatever.
Big on the flag.
They probably still want to get into your bedroom. But, we can be friends with them where it's possible. The number here is 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks.
We have significant losses of troops, and it's a huge tragedy for us.
Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov admitting for the first time that a substantial number of Russian troops have died on the Ukrainian battlefield. He spoke today exclusively to Britain's Sky News and said that Russian troops had pulled back from Kiev to give negotiations a chance to succeed. He denied that Russian troops had committed war crimes, said Moscow was a victim of fake news, and said the Kremlin sees no possibility of Vladimir Putin or members of his inner circle ending up before a war crimes tribunal. Mr. Peskov was speaking as the UN General Assembly voted to throw Russia out of the UN Human Rights Council. FSN's Sarah Walton covering that story from our bureau at UN headquarters.
In introducing the resolution to remove Russia from the Human Rights Council to the UN General Assembly, the Ukrainian ambassador Sergei Kislyak compared Russia's invasion with the Rwandan genocide of 1994, initial warnings of which were not recognised by the UN. He said the credibility of the Human Rights Council was at risk unless Russia was suspended. The Russian representative said the move was a politically motivated attempt by the West to maintain dominance in international relations, and he said the accusations of human rights violations committed by Russia were based on fake news. In the end, 93 members of the UN General Assembly voted yes to Russia's suspension, 24 voted against, including China and Iran. 58 countries abstained from the vote. Libya is the only other country to have ever been suspended from the Human Rights Council after government violence against protesters in 2011. Sarah Walton, New York.
In Russia, Nobel Peace Prize winning journalist Dmitry Muratov was attacked on a train in the southwest of the country. Red paint was thrown at him and one of his eyes was reportedly damaged. In Washington, an historic moment on Capitol Hill.
On this vote, the yeas are 53, the nays are 47, and this nomination is confirmed.
Vice President Kamala Harris announcing that Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson will become the first black woman to sit on the U.S. Supreme Court. From FSN's Washington Bureau, Nick Harper reports.
Every Democrat senator, along with 3 Republicans, approved her nomination, handing President Joe Biden a big win. When running for president, he'd pledged to nominate a black female. This confirmation is a fulfillment of that campaign promise. We're told the president and the newly minted justice watched the Senate vote at the White House. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
The Supreme Court in Pakistan has ruled that Prime Minister Imran Khan acted unconstitutionally when he dissolved Parliament earlier this week, fearing he was about to lose a no-confidence vote. The vote will now take place this weekend and could oust him from power. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, an eyewitness account of the situation in Bucha, just outside Kiev, where some of the Russian army's worst atrocities appear to have been committed. Belle True is the international correspondent for the Independent newspaper of Britain, and she's there.
I mean, the scenes are basically of utter devastation. I was just on one street where there was obviously about a dozen different Russian armoured vehicles that had come under heavy fire. And it was just like something out of an apocalyptic moonscape. But miraculously, there was a family who'd actually stayed put, hiding in their cellar. The teenage boy told me that he was nearly summarily executed by Russian soldiers and his life was saved by a commander at the very last second. He said that one of his neighbours, his body had been eaten by rats, went to apartment buildings that had been heavily looted. There's a trench of mass graves. So I talked to the priest there, who said that they basically had to make these mass graves because there was no electricity to keep the fridges going in the morgue, and the morgues were overflowing. And so he was basically just digging up the backyard of the church to give some semblance of a burial for people. And he estimated, well, they stopped counting at 100 bodies. So the sort of feeling here is just so grim, it's hard to put into words.
She says she also met some families returning to Bucha to check up on the homes they left behind, but she reports that the area is littered with landmines and extremely hazardous for those people attempting to get back. The main news again, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov has admitted for the first time that a significant number of Russian troops have died on the Ukrainian battlefield. Nobel Peace Prize winning Russian journalist Dmitry Muratov was attacked today on a train. Red paint was thrown at him, damaging his sight in one eye. And the Senate has confirmed Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson as the first black woman to join the US Supreme Court. And that is the latest feature story news. Simon Marks reporting.
Over 60% of employers are now checking online amateur pornography of potential job candidates. Is it fair to base hiring decisions on an applicant's online porn?
Now, this is not fair at all. For instance, if there's a red tube video of my girlfriend slapping me and choking me and riding me, that shouldn't be an indication that I'm going to lack leadership in a work situation.
Yeah, but Duncan, it's going to be hard to convince an employer who's masturbating to that video otherwise.
Exactly. My potential employer might see all those videos of my husband tying me up and having his way with me. And then they're going to think that I'm not going to be assertive enough for the job.
I mean, if you don't want to jeopardize the content of your porn, you can always shoot from the eyes down.
Oh, but that's not the same if you cover the eyes. That's where the innocence is.
So am I supposed to leave an orgy just because someone shows up with a camera?
No one's saying you should leave an orgy.
Right. So
it's more complicated.
So now, if I go to a party, I wear something like this in case that situation comes up again.
I like that. I actually shoot my porn in sepia tone and make it look old-timey, so if people see it, they'll think it's my grandfather and not me.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. We're kicking off the third hour of the program, talking about the nightmare of DCYF, and they call it different things in different states.
It's all the same. They're just kidnappers.
CPF, DCF, whatever. It's always different. But here in New Hampshire, they're DCYF, and as I just learned from Jay Noon, who's our guest co-host here tonight, it's Ian and Mark, or not Mark, Ian and Matt.
Whatever feels good, dude. I'll just answer yes.
Mark will be back at some point, though. He is planning on returning to New Hampshire and doing some shows with us, which will be fun. But just learned that it's actually not Department of Children, Youth, and Families. It's the Division of Children, Youth, and Families, which, as you point out, Jay, is kind of an interesting distinction. That's because that's what they actually do.
They divide children from families.
Yeah, I did not realize that was what they were called. We're going to go back to your calls and thoughts here, and then Jay is going to regale us with his very first ever press release that you put together in relation to the situation where they're trying to steal your kids from you. But first, we have Clamoring calling us from northern New Hampshire. Go ahead, Clamoring.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Hello.
So, pardon me because I'm just tuning in, so I don't know what's been covered already, but I've just heard of Jay's situation. Mm-hmm. And as you guys know, this is a topic that's really important to me. Mm-hmm. And it's a nightmare situation for any parent. And, you know, I was until very recently a foster parent, and I previously worked with DCYF very closely. So I have a lot of experience with DCYF, especially in New Hampshire, which has been overall horrible as an anarchist. But this is what our community does. We help each other in the things that we're good at. So, Jay, do you still have your beautiful children?
Well, they are in hiding right now, but yes, they are in a safe place. So, it's a little sad, Cypress is, she wants her daddy and she wants to work with her daddy. And, pretty much a typical morning in my house is about, I'm usually up somewhere between 5:30 and, maybe 7:30, depending on what's going on. And a lot of times, then now the sun's up earlier, I just get up and, and then Cypress is shortly up after I'm up. And first thing she's doing, she's still in her jammies and she runs over and she grabs her little muck boots and she puts them on. And then she brings my muck boots over because, we have a lot of mud and we wear muck boots pretty much every day. And she says, Daddy work.
Slave driver.
And she's getting me out of the house. And she's like, we feed the ox and the nice and the moose. She doesn't say cow, pig, or horse, and we don't have a horse there, but sometimes she throws that in the mix.
Cute.
But yeah, so I'm really missing that because I haven't had my kids.
Now you got more work to do.
Well, yeah, and she's a great helper.
Yeah, that's cool. So what else, Clamoring?
Oh, no, I was basically just checking in on Jay because, like I said, I have a lot of experience with DCYF, and I've been pretty vocal that it's basically thinly veiled child trafficking. Like, I don't have any good opinions about it.
It's not thinly veiled. I mean, the definition of trafficking is buying, selling, or trading. And essentially the federal government and the state government are providing the dollars to make this happen. And, in Carlos Morales' book, what was it? Taken, a case against CP.
He used to work for them.
Right.
In Florida or something.
Something like that. Yeah. So he basically was essentially a whistleblower, and wrote this book, and certainly indicting them, and they want to get that federal money in a bad way. And the way they get that federal money,
the more kids, the more money,
is by you giving them the ability to come in your house and look around and interview it's just by literally agreeing to the order that actually doesn't even apply to anyone. It applies to a police officer, a parole officer, or a
it doesn't
social
have
worker.
your name on
No,
the
no,
order.
it's not an order for me to do anything.
Yeah.
But this is very much trickery that these people use because there's a lot of people, like I have a tremendous amount of experience with the court system.
In court, yeah. To read a document. You know how to interpret what they're saying.
I've been
the
an
average
activist
person doesn't know.
Since I've been 15 years old.
Yeah.
And so anyways...
the average person just gets scared by the fact that there's an officer with a gun at their front door and somebody with official looking forms, and they say, okay, we'll do whatever you want.
And it's literally fraud, and it needs to stop.
Clamoring, anything else you want to share? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just say from my previous experience as a foster parent, like in the Facebook groups that I'm in, everybody's just trying to get babies. Like all the infertile couples, blah blah blah.
And there's a lot of them.
It's a whole rigmarole.
So there's a market demand
to get children.
So you've met my beautiful little boy, right?
Yes, I have.
And would you say there's a market demand within that system for that beautiful little boy?
Absolutely.
And my daughter?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's nuts.
That's interesting. I didn't really think of it that way.
We talked...
all of the groups are like, they're just like, I'm fostering to adopt.
Wow.
Like, we want babies. We want kids. We want, it's the whole system is set up to get children.
And what is the culture of these people who want these kids that are sterile people? Like, what's the culture of them? Do you have any idea?
Basically, just they're in the foster system. They're fostering children so that they can take the children away from their natural parents.
But is the culture of these people are they the kind of people who are going to, make a donation to Black Lives Matter, or are they the kind of people that are going to carry a gun? around with them in New Hampshire?
I'd say probably the former.
Okay.
If I had to guess.
So we
They don't
talked
really
briefly
talk about
about
it in those
DCYF and the idea of, well, why can't state representatives propose to just abolish them completely? And you mentioned, they don't have the political will to do it. They're afraid about getting reelected. But what if the proposal were made? Of course, the big objection is going to come up, and they're going to say, okay, well, yeah, there's problems with DCYF. Of course, we can acknowledge there's problems with it. But what about the abusive situations? That's what we really have them there for, is to go into the abusive homes, to get kids out of abusive homes where they're being beaten, they're being starved, and to put them in the hands of people that can take better care of them. How do you address that? How do we get rid of DCYF and then address the abusive homes objection?
Stop using it. Stop giving it life.
Yeah, I'm not sure I have a good answer for that, but I can just tell you, as a former foster parent, my last foster child had 6 different agencies, and getting an answer to an email took days to a week from any of them, and I had to coordinate as the foster parent. I had to coordinate getting this child her doctor's appointments and her medications and all of these things, but they didn't care about the foster parents. The system is not set up to take care of foster parents. They're really, really set up, honestly, to traffic children.
Wow. Because that's going to be the objection, right? If that actually ever is put forward, if a state representative ever puts forward, okay, let's abolish DCYF, there's going to be a public hearing, and somebody's going to come in and they're going to trot out stories of, we know Jay's a good guy, we know his wife is a good person, they're taking 100%. Good care of their kids. But we also know there's probably somebody out there who has abused their kids, and DCYF has probably come into that situation and removed those kids. So how would that work absent the DCYF? I mean, I'm not asking you guys to have answers immediately for it, but that's going to be something that people are going to want to hear an answer to. You're
talking about in a stateless society kind of situation?
Well, I mean, the proposal wouldn't be in a stateless society because we're not there yet.
Right.
The proposal would be, how do we get from where we are today to having these bureaucrats being gone? How do you answer that objection?
Political power makes a difference.
Stop feeding the parasite.
Yeah.
No, I understand what you're saying, Matt, but you still have to convince people that it's a good idea. I get what you're saying. Take over the state representatives, and then you've just got the raw numbers. But you still got to convince people, because otherwise they're going to drag you through the mud and say that you want to see children abused. So there's going to have to be some sort of an answer.
But just to finish up, one thing I can say, in my previous position as a domestic violence, sexual assault survivor advocate, and I mostly worked with children in CACs, I can say that the individuals that I worked with, not the agencies, but the individuals that I worked with, all genuinely wanted the right things for the kids.
So somehow the incentives get really warped with the bureaucracy. Thanks, Clamoring. There's more coming up here. It's Free Talk Live. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Brute force, intransigent defiance, adamantine will. These are the hallmarks of the AI tank. These gigantic machines have the firepower of an army, but they also have their own sense of honor and duty. When the world breakers arrive, battle will be joined, planets will shake, and war and peace will never be the same again. World Breakers. Stories from David Weber, Larry Correia, and more. Available August 3rd from BaneBooks.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live, phone number here, 603-283-6160. You can join us at 603-283-6160. You can also follow our Odyssey channel on the Odyssey video sharing platform, which is based on Library. Library is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol. You can go to lbry.com to learn more about Library. And get over to our video.freetalklive.com URL. That'll take you right to our Odyssey channel. You can follow our channel there. Watch us live or watch the show later on. That's all available for you at video.freetalklive.com. Here tonight, you've got Ian,
Jay,
and Matt.
Jay, you wanted to share a press release here tonight, and I think we better get into it before we run out of time, because those things tend to happen sooner rather than later, sometimes in the third hour of the show. This is something that you put together to let the media know, I presume, about what's been happening to you with DCYF.
And
so go ahead.
So I basically read this in a video, and it says, "Hi, friends. I'm Jay Noon. I'm from Henniker, New Hampshire. I am locally known as a farmer, rancher, modern-day cowboy, mechanic, blacksmith, influencer, inspiration to others, creator of Man Camp, and most importantly, a husband and a father. My family is currently under attack by the New Hampshire Division of Child, Youth, and Families, also known as DCYF. I teach my kids traditional American values that include hard work, farming, ranching, raising pigs, chickens, and cows. I have worked diligently for years now creating an environment for my kids to get their dopamine hits from feeding and caring for farm animals and gardening. I also teach a homeschool curriculum I call Man Camp. That was started with teaching kids blacksmithing, welding, forging, and now includes farming and ranching activities. Man Camp is my plan to save the world by teaching our youngsters confidence through acquiring constructive building and creating skills with hands-on tools that have been around for thousands of years. I host a Farm Friday event where we invite mostly city-urban families to our homestead to do farm chores such as feeding and caring for livestock, preparing, sowing, cultivating, and harvesting food from gardens, to encourage kids that do not live on farms to get off of big tech and back to the land, as was a normal part of American culture a half a decade ago. I feel it is very vital for the future of America and the world that we heavily invest in our posterity. It basically requires your time as a parent or as anyone that cares about our posterity. When kids are getting their dopamine hits from hard work such as farming, ranching, gardening, or just doing chores around the house, they develop confidence, self-worth, valuable skills, and work ethic, which are very critical elements of society that are now missing. And these kids also do not need government. Just look around. Just look around. Help wanted signs are everywhere. We are entering a period in history of a major epidemic of unmotivated and unskilled people. Thank you, academia, the college push, and wokeism. Now that you understand who I am and what my values are, I will explain this situation. A New Hampshire DCYF social worker named Melissa Combs has lied in her affidavit to the court multiple times. One example is she uses the term anti-government. The family lives on a compound with lookouts. That is when I realized how dire the situation was and moved my family to a safe location several hours away. My wife, daughter, and son have not been in their home or on their farm for over a week now. This is very difficult for my family and especially for my daughter, as she is constantly asking for her dad. She is begging my wife every day, several times, to go to work with dad. My daughter, whose favorite things to do is work with dad and read books with dad. Her favorite books are the ones about chickens, cows, pigs, and horses. The New Hampshire DCYF has a motion to enter premises from the Hillsborough, New Hampshire District Court that was quite likely rubber stamped with several other DCYF cases, and it is signed by Judge Aaron B. McIntyre. The order says a police officer, juvenile parole officer, or child protection service worker shall enter the premises of the children in furtherance of the Department of Health and Human Services investigation to assess the immediate safety and well-being of the children. Furthermore, these creeps have an order to interview my 2-year-old daughter alone without the parents and to compel the parents to provide information for the children's medical provider and to sign a release for information. Against my own sort of, normal way of doing things, but due to the extreme pressure from my wife and other family members, this past Sunday, April 3rd, in the best interest of justice, I extended an olive branch and reached out to the Henniker Chief of Police. He offered to invite them, as in the police, to my home to enter the premises to assess the immediate safety of the kids, because I have nothing to hide. But I am not willing to allow professional child traffickers on my land or near my kids. I believe the local rural Henniker police are good people and have similar values as I. I learned on Thursday that DCYF rejected that offer. And they are continuing to come to our property and demanding I let them in the house and interview my kids. They continue to call the home phone. They call and text my messages, call and text message my wife's phone. The Henniker police chief told the DCYF that he believes my kids are not neglected. He's been to my homestead at least 4 times now, and we met him for breakfast one day when this all started. But DCYF is still coming against us. The reason I am not allowing these child traffickers into my life is they have a horrible track record of destroying families. Just take a few minutes to internet search New Hampshire DCYF settlements, and you will see article after article where the state of New Hampshire had settled millions of dollars worth of lawsuits due to DCYF literally taking kids from families and giving these kids to child molesters and murderers. In at least 2 cases, the child molesters were known child molesters. The current presidential administration, the courts, the legislature, legacy media, big tech, public schools, and academia have been infiltrated by radical leftist cult members for decades that have been engaged in a multi-generational cultural warfare against long-standing American values. The radical leftists don't have any kids, but they have yours. If you send your kids to public schools or let them use internet devices, then radical leftists have your kids. The solution is moms and dads need to get back to being responsible for their own and not just pawning that responsibility onto the government school systems and not using big tech internet devices as babysitters and pacifiers.
We're going to talk more. You've got more to the press release, a little bit more. Coming up here in moments. If you've got a question for Jay Noon, he's here with us about his situation, which is not an unusual situation. These, as you call them, child traffickers are targeting parents, good parents, all across the United States in similar circumstances. 603-283-6160. You can join us here. It is Free Talk Live.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks.
We have significant losses of troops, and it's a huge tragedy for us.
Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov admitting for the first time that a substantial number of Russian troops have died on the Ukrainian battlefield. He spoke today exclusively to Britain's Sky News and said that Russian troops had pulled back from Kiev to give negotiations a chance to succeed. He denied that Russian troops had committed war crimes, said Moscow was a victim of fake news, and said the Kremlin sees no possibility of Vladimir Putin or members of his inner circle ending up before a war crimes tribunal. Mr. Peskov was speaking as the UN General Assembly voted to throw Russia out of the UN Human Rights Council. FSN's Sarah Walton covering that story from our bureau at UN headquarters.
In introducing the resolution to remove Russia from the Human Rights Council to the UN General Assembly, the Ukrainian ambassador Sergei Kislyak compared Russia's invasion with the Rwandan genocide of 1994, initial warnings of which were not recognised by the UN. He said the credibility of the Human Rights Council was at risk unless Russia was suspended. The Russian representative said the move was a politically motivated attempt by the West to maintain dominance in international relations, and he said the accusations of human rights violations committed by Russia were based on fake news. In the end, 93 members of the UN General Assembly voted yes to Russia's suspension, 24 voted against, including China and Iran. 58 countries abstained from the vote. Libya is the only other country to have ever been suspended from the Human Rights Council after government violence against protesters in 2011. Sarah Walton, New York.
In Russia, Nobel Peace Prize winning journalist Dmitry Muratov was attacked on a train in the southwest of the country. Red paint was thrown at him and one of his eyes was reportedly damaged. In Washington, an historic moment on Capitol Hill.
On this vote, the yeas are 53, the nays are 47, and this nomination is confirmed.
Vice President Kamala Harris announcing that Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson will become the first black woman to sit on the U.S. Supreme Court. From FSN's Washington Bureau, Nick Harper reports.
Every Democrat senator, along with 3 Republicans, approved her nomination, handing President Joe Biden a big win. When running for president, he'd pledged to nominate a black female. This confirmation is a fulfillment of that campaign promise. We're told the president and the newly minted justice watched the Senate vote at the White House. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
The Supreme Court in Pakistan has ruled that Prime Minister Imran Khan acted unconstitutionally when he dissolved Parliament earlier this week, fearing he was about to lose a no-confidence vote. The vote will now take place this weekend and could oust him from power. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
Yep, it is Free Talk Live. Phones are open. You can join us at 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Ian, Jay, and Matt in the studio tonight. We're talking about DCYF, a.k.a. the Division of Children, Youth, and Families. The people that like to steal kids from families and put them in the hands of in some cases, some pretty questionable, dangerous individuals. That's what we're talking about right now. They're coming after Jay Noon's family. He is a former regular co-host. You took some time off after having your first kid, and then you had a second one, so You've definitely got your hands full.
I mean, no offense, but I'm not interested in, driving an hour, hanging out for, 3 hours, and then driving another hour when I can spend that time reading books to my daughter.
Sure. Hey, man, I got you.
I got nothing better to do than to raise my kids.
You got your priorities.
That's right.
So, but you're here tonight, and
Yes.
That's because, you wanted to get the word out. We'd had you on the air. You'd called in and talked about it, but this is a more detailed, I guess, dive into what's been going on. You've got the government goons. They came to your house last week. They've got a piece of paper from a robed man or woman threatening not you directly, but ultimately you. It doesn't have your name on it, but it basically tells these cops they can go into your house. To the police's credit in your area, which is rare that you'll hear us say that on this show, but to their credit, they didn't go through with what this judge was ordering.
They don't have any actually authority to do it.
Well, that's interesting, because normally a cop will just do whatever a man in a robe says.
No, the man in the robe doesn't say that they can come on the property. It says a police officer can go on the premises, but they don't have to be allowed on the property.
So that's different than going inside.
Yep.
But a lot of people don't understand that, right? When they read these things, or they probably
not even going outside. They have to. You have to give them permission to go inside. The order is for an officer to do this, but the permission is to so an officer can do it, and it says shall, and we know in legalese shall means
that means
may.
must. Oh, really? Shall.
Does the shall mean must? I thought it meant
shall
may.
means must. Yeah,
it means must.
Well,
like will.
Right, so I got that a little wrong. But anyways.
But premises isn't defined, so it could be just being on the property. Anyway, you told him no, you're not going to let him inside. You've been trying to negotiate this. You have a press release that you're in the middle of sharing with us. What kind of has gone over the whole story to some extent. It's designed for someone who's brand new to the situation, specifically the media, which obviously you'd like to get some coverage from. Whether they're going to be friendly or not is, of course, a whole other question. But
that's fine.
You got to get the word out somehow. So, and by the way, a fundraiser has been posted over at social.freetalklive.com. That, of course, also goes up on our Twitter account as well. So if you want to help out Jay, there's a Give, Send, Go fundraiser link at social.freetalklive.com on the FTL account there. But go ahead and pick up your press release where we left off, and then we'll get to some phone calls here.
So I'll start at the solution is moms and dads need to get back to being responsible for their own and not just pawning that responsibility onto the government school system and not using big tech internet devices as babysitters and pacifiers. Get your kids out of the public schools. Remove big tech from their lives. Get your kids back on the land and allow them to heal. Rudolf Steiner, the creator of the Waldorf school deal, states, our highest endeavor must be to develop free human beings who are able of themselves to impart purpose and direction in their lives. They need for imagination, a sense of truth, and a feeling of responsibility. These three forces are very nerve of education. I need your help to defend my family from this intrusion into my life. You can help me in many different ways. By sharing this video with everyone you know, by calling the director of New Hampshire DCYF, Joe Risbon, at 603-271-9389, and demanding the resignation of Melissa Combs. You can donate to our Give Send Go campaign at givesendgo.com/G33YC. And you can use links or QR codes here to donate cryptocurrencies. I thank you for your time. Now raise your families, plant those gardens, and raise some farm animals with your kids.
What a monster. This man needs to have his kids taken away. It's just amazing what these people are doing to you, Jay.
There's something very Handmaid's Tale about this whole thing too. It's like, in the Handmaid's Tale, they took all the kids away from the women, and then they used the women for breed stock, and then they educated the kids in their schools in their ways, and Jay's talking about a culture war. How is this different than the Handmaid's Tale?
It's not. And with everybody who got vaxxed and triple vaxxed and all this nonsense, and the people, and then we have a lot of women who were, basically not allowed to be women through the pressure of, their peers and academia. You need to do careers. So infertility is a huge thing. There's obviously a tremendous demand in the marketplace for actually, I was told there's a major demand in the marketplace for white, rural babies, and people who, if you want to, get a kid, very soon, as a foster parent and adopt a kid, there's plenty of drug addicted kids that you can adopt that, are going to be like a major issue to deal with and take care of, and are going to require a lot of medical attention and all kinds of things. And I know some wonderful people. I actually know a gay couple in Massachusetts, and they're just absolutely wonderful family. Two men, and they have adopted kids that basically nobody would ever take care of. These guys have like hearts of gold. The one guy's a doctor. The other guy is like a business manager thing, or I don't know what he does. But one guy's a doctor, and they make pretty good money. I know they get some money from the state. This is in Massachusetts, but like, so they've took on a bunch of those kids, and I know those people, and I bring a pony over for the birthday rides. When I used to live down there. And, but some of the kids are in wheelchairs. One of them's, got a food tube. And those are available right now. But good, healthy, white babies are like the huge demand in that marketplace.
And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to traffic those children.
Yes, absolutely.
No doubt.
Let's go to Rob. He's on the line in Vermont. You're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, Jay, I'm glad that you made the choice to move your family. That was a wise decision. I'll tell you, this kind of thing has been going on a lot longer than what you guys realize. I went through the same kind of ambush myself, over 40 years ago, where the Department of Child Welfare came into our life, turned my kids against me. The kids were taken away, and put into foster care. And I went to prison for almost 10 years for a crime I know damn well I didn't commit. And I've been in the paper. I've been telling people this. You guys all know I've been telling people this for almost 15 years. This thing happens. And when they take your kids, they poison them against you. They put them in foster care, and they'll adopt the children out if they can. And when they adopt the children out, the Department of Child Welfare, they make millions of dollars doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And and it's sad. My own one son.
They have contractors. They got
subcontractors. And this is a kid that wants to kill me, Jay.
Jeez. Oh wow.
And this is what it does: is it ghosts your own kids. against you. And what do you do? You know?
Talk about it on Free Talk Live.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's not much more that you can do besides talk about it. And like you said, Rob, you've been trying for decades to talk to people about this. But that, again, talking hasn't changed the situation. These bureaucrats are still in control. So, I mean, there has to be some other kind of solution. And thank you, Rob, for the call tonight. Sorry to hear about the horrors. And there's no shortage to these horror stories out there of parents losing their kids to this system. And whatever it is that happens to them in there. What do you do about that? Well, I mean, to me, the only solution is to not change the system, but to abolish it entirely.
Completely.
And until people are ready to start taking that seriously, we're never really going to see any serious change. You can change out the deck chairs, but it's still going to be the Titanic. It's Free Talk Live. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better, too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
There are basically 2 types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live, phones open. You join us if you want here in the remaining moments. Number 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. It's Ian J, Noon, and Matt in the studio here tonight. Our website, freetalklive.com. We have a few different options for you if you want to subscribe to our podcast. If you'd like to have each episode of Free Talk Live delivered directly to you without you having to even lift a finger, you just have to set it up. It doesn't take very long. You go to feeds.freetalklive.com. You'll find links there to our what they call RSS feeds. You can take one of those links. There's one for everything that we've released. There's the digest-only version. There's the full shows only. You take whichever one you want and put it into your favorite podcast client, and then it'll automatically come straight to you, each MP3 file as we release and be right there on your phone or your laptop or whatever device it is you're running the podcast client on, whatever that happens to be. So head over to feeds.freetalklive.com. We go to your phone calls and thoughts. David, in New Mexico, you're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead.
Yeah, welcome to the club. Let me rattle off a couple of things and then I'll shut up. And I'm with you. I'm with you, Jay. And
thank you.
First of all, let me ask you, and then let me rattle off this stuff. But just yes or no, did you lay out earlier in the program? I didn't get to hear it all. What the who, what, why, where, when, what they're after? I mean, what they're accusing you of?
Yeah, my wife left my daughter in the car and ran into a store, left the car running with the air conditioning on and locked because the kid had just fallen asleep, and she had a 6-month-old baby that she, when she stopped at the place, she grabbed the baby, changed his diaper, then breastfed him a little bit in the front seat, and then put the baby in a baby carrier, went in the store. And my daughter, my 2-year-old daughter, was sleeping, and she parked her car right in like a good area. There was a couple surveillance cameras. It was right there in front of the door. She had to grab. She ordered a few things, had to run in there and grab it. Came back out, and there was busybodies and a police officer, and then more cops showed up.
Right. Got it. So it's one of the things I've said over the years. Oh, and let me interject right there that thank you, Free Talk Live. Thank you, Ian and Mark and other people, like-minded people that have allowed me to speak and attempt to get the message out. And let me segue there in a disjointed way to Pastor Martin Niemöller. Everybody should know who that is. And if you don't, then first they came for the communists, but you weren't a communist. And then they came for the Jews, but you weren't a Jew. Then they came for him, and they put him in a concentration camp with the Jews for a number of years where they probably intended him to die, but the war was over and he didn't die. And so let me finish rattling the things off, and hopefully you won't get from other than Ian and Mark and the other people that are included in that positive group that have allowed me to speak. Hopefully you won't get hate and ridicule because a lot of people that fight for themselves end up, people don't want to hear them anymore, and they get hate and ridicule. Okay, enough of that. And you name names. Keep naming names. You named a name and a phone number. You named 2 names and a name. Just like somebody that I might know, like M. Monica Zamora in the state of New Mexico, John J. Romero Jr., both judges. I have a unanimous decision saying overturning M. Monica Zamora. Keep naming names, and then Facebook. There's some good resources at Facebook. Believe it or not, there's like your caller clamoring from New Hampshire had listed out of targeted individuals. There's a lot of you'll see there's targeted individuals on Facebook.
Before you go on with the names and all that, you gave me an idea. There have been the occasional protests outside, like the governor's house or the attorney general's house. Has there ever been a DCYF bureaucrat who's had a protest outside of their house? Has that ever been a thing?
Yeah.
I mean, they like coming to people's homes, so why not give them a taste of their own medicine?
Oh boy!
Yeah, I mentioned that here and there over the years, and it's very hard. Pastor Martin Niemöller, it's very hard to warn these people that you might want to help, because after they've disposed of me and people like me, then they're coming for you for a different reason. So you might want to pay attention. So what I was trying to say is there are helpful resources on Facebook. If you search, there are many different groups that have excellent legal advice, because these people are in it. They've been through it. They got professional legal help, and that information gets put onto there for free if you search in your case. And in my case, CPS was never even involved in my case. It was done completely without CPS being involved, simply getting a private attorney and taking someone to court privately. So it can be done in many different ways, but fight CPS. And
well, then there's the answer to my question earlier about, okay, well, what are we going to say? And thank you, David, for the call tonight. What are we going to say when somebody finally proposes to eliminate CPS or DCYF or whatever the hell they're called? When somebody brings up the objection of, well, what about abusive parents? What are we going to do without DCYF? And he just gave the example. You don't even need them. Just bring a court action or something like that. There's ways to do this that don't involve having another bureaucracy. So anyway, just to go back to the idea of these bureaucrats, these DCYF bureaucrats. I mean, what's the woman's name again?
Melissa Coombs.
Melissa Coombs. She's got a house somewhere in New Hampshire.
For sure.
And I suspect if she's worked at that bureaucracy for some number of years, she's probably ruined a lot of people's lives.
It's her whole job, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, she might strike gold every once in a while and get a really victimized kid out of the hands of a really bad person. But most of the time, she's probably just attacking good people.
And a lot of these, legit, let's say there's legit bad people that are, and a
lot of them work for the state.
Well, legit bad people in general that don't work for the state, that neglect and abuse their children, and they're living with, they say cockroaches. I'm not sure cockroaches are in New Hampshire. I've never seen any in New Hampshire, only really in Florida. But and in horrible conditions. But all this stuff at research I did, it seemed like all the real problematic folks were essentially people on welfare that were addicted to opiates. And we know how the opiates come here. The United States government subsidizes via the military occupation of Afghanistan the harvest, basically the sowing, the harvesting, the cultivation. The sowing, the cultivation, the harvesting, the processing of poppy, and Silver Dave's been talking about that for years, ever since I've known him. He served in Afghanistan with the special forces, and he said it's a heroin farm, and it was occupied by 70 nations of the world, literally for up until recently, and but there was heroin everywhere. And as a special forces guy, he founded a heroin refining facility that was very modern and up to date, and there was pallets full of heroin, and they had some leftover explosives, and one of the stories he said was that they rigged a place and they were waiting for the orders to charge it, and they were absolutely not, and he got in all kinds of trouble for that. And but yeah, the purpose of so all the dope that's being brought into this country, the heroin, is government subsidized. The government is pushing it here, and that is a major issue. If it wasn't for government, DCYF wouldn't have nearly as many legitimate child abuse and neglect issues because of the heroin crisis. And if you thought the heroin epidemic was bad, wait till this internet devising dopamine overload, these people letting their kids on devices, that ton of bricks hits us, and we're starting to see it. 18-year-olds don't want to work, and 18-year-olds have had high-speed internet their entire life.
Yeah, and they only communicate with one another through devices. Right. They can sit in the same room together, and they're still talking on devices in a lot of cases. You mentioned Afghanistan. There was a headline recently that, not that we support drug prohibition or anything like that, but now that the United States government is out of Afghanistan, guess what happened with the Taliban in charge?
Yeah, they
banned poppy cultivation.
and before the American government was occupying it, if you were basically growing poppy, you got your head cut off. It was the bottom line. That's what the Taliban did to you. They didn't mess around. The Afghanistan is the most fertile soil in the world, the best irrigation system, all top-notch, high technology, and the American government turned it into a dope farm,
drug den.
Yep.
It's insane. All right, what are we missing here? We've covered your story with DCYF pretty deep. Is there something else that you wanted to mention?
Yeah, I definitely want to mention that I am so thankful I'm on New Hampshire. I am so thankful I moved here for the Free State Project. I am so thankful for this community I have. I have, I was at a Liberty Clubhouse one night, and a man named Rick Humboldt came up to me. He gave me a hug. He says, "I'm Rick Humboldt. Do you know what that means on your shirt?" And he explained this sacred geometry. And I went to his place. He says, "Hey, I want to sell you my house. This is great. I want to buy it." And I've spent the past 4 years literally creating the best darn place I could think of to raise kids.
Absolutely.
To raise and to build community. And
there's nothing like the community here, right?
There's nothing like the community. And
I'd like to say you're lucky, but there's no luck involved.
It was choice.
You put blood, sweat, and tears into making that perfection. You got a great place to raise kids there.
I work hard.
Yeah, I met Rick Humboldt's son actually the other day. He was at the Peace event that happened in Concord, just by total chance. I never met him before. So I'm sure you will keep our listeners informed as this develops. There's a video of your press release. We're going to get that up over at Free Keene. So if you want to check out freekeene.com, and we may have a special announcement there coming soon. See you tomorrow. freetalklive.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone? You forgot to download our archive.